I think we have it very well under control. I think it would have been a very bad situation. It was heading in the wrong direction. It's now heading in the right direction, and we hope to have the support of Gavin, because Gavin's the big beneficiary as we straighten out his problems. I mean, his state is a mess, and I'd like to get somebody involved in the rail because, look, listen, it should have never been built, because you can fly there for $2, and what are you doing? They're doing that. You could drive, you could do lots of different things. You know, if they did a study,
QuickBooks to get your cash flow flowing. Start designing. Manage and grow your business all in one place. Intuit QuickBooks, your way to money.
This is the new AMG GT XX, and it's a pretty amazing thing. It's a concept car with loads of groundbreaking motor, battery and other technology. However, it will spawn a road car that will replace the AMG GT 4-door. So basically this is going to be AMG's version. This is AMG's most aerodynamic car. It's even more aerodynamic than the Formula 1 inspired AMG one. Oh, this is also faster than car 2. There's also a race car theme here on the inside, even though it's a 4-seater. Plus, it's packed full of innovative new materials, which I'll tell you more about in a little later on. And I'll also give you a clue about what this car may sound like. I'm not Watson, watching Car Wow. When I first saw this car, I thought it reminds me of something. What is it? And kind of from the front, I was getting like Ferrari vibes from the mid-60s, but it's not that at all, is it? It's the Mercedes C111.
The C111 is a very important car in Mercedes history. 16 of these models were built in the 60s and 70s to test all sorts of new technologies, including rotor engines, turbo diesels and anti-lock brakes. One car also had streamlined bodywork that helped it set a new top speed record of 250 miles an hour way back in 1979. But the C111 also holds another record. It's the only Mercedes that ever came with pop-up headlamps. Anyway, let's get back to this new AMG.
Now, obviously, it doesn't have that car's like poppy up headlamps, but it does have some very interesting headlamps. They're quite thin for a modern car, but there's some really interesting technology on those, which I'll tell you more about later. But actually, when you look at it, you can see it's an AMG. It's a classic AMG build. It's very, very wide. It's kind of like backwards. It's got a sharp angle to it, and you've got vertical slats, which actually match up to these vertical slats in the bonnet, because you've got cooling that comes through the front of the car and exits here. Love the paintwork. It's called Sunset Beam Orange. It really pops. Yeah, this car has presence. Down the side, there's a lot of focus on aerodynamics. So if you look at these wheels here, design where you've got a motor in here which can actually shut these vents, so you can have these vents open for cooling the brakes, but then when you need maximum aero efficiency they will shut like that. Here you see the AMG logo, there's carbon fibre. The door mirrors are really tiny as well, once again to reduce drag, though yeah, you don't see too much of those. I think Rear visibility up top could be a little problem. These side sills are designed to smooth the airflow down the side of the car. You have poppy-outed door handles so you can let you go in. But when the door handles go in, I always struggle with Mercedes poppy-outed door handles. I can never operate them. Anyway, it's not a fuss for me. You can see that this is actually a 4-door car, so you can get into the back seat there. More on that later. Moving to the back, you've got some really like aggressive-looking porches and a very sloping roof line. So this car doesn't have a rear wing, so it uses Venturi tunnels underneath the car to create downforce and improve aerodynamics.
These work by using the car's underbody like a massive upside-down wing, which uses the airflow underneath the chassis to suck the car down onto the road, just like on a Formula 1 car. This produces a lot less drag than traditional spoilers and wings, which helps the car reach a higher top speed, while still being able to corner quickly.
So the drag coefficient of this car is 0.198 CD, which is better than that of the Tesla Model S, which is 0.208, and that's the most aerodynamic production car on sale at the moment. Now, why is aero efficiency so important? Well, at 186 miles an hour, 83% of the car's energy is used to overcome drag, and this car can go a lot quicker than 186 miles an hour. Here at the back, you'll notice there is no rear window. If you're wondering what that is, no, it's not attached to the boot, and no, it's not a spoiler that pops up. Instead, it's an air brake that pops up. Moving down here, you'll notice the round tail lights there, which sort of look a little bit like the afterburners of the jet engine. And then you've got this panel here, which is made up of 700 individual LEDs that can display various messages and images.
Did you send me something other than good morning?
changes, you can't program your own to say route things to the buzzer behind it. They will be pre-selected by engine. Lower down, you've got a rear diffuser. It's very interesting. It's carbon fibre or a improve the aerodynamics of this car. The door handles are just shut. You can see it flush. Just try and open them. It was operator error. There's a lot going on here with the interior. Very, very interesting. So there's a big motorsporty vibe, like with the ambient lighting here. Obviously the steering wheel is inspired by the AMG 1. You've got these two big screens, and this main infotainment screen is angled towards the driver. It's actually running a loop of graphics, so we can't configure it. On here there's some shift lights. Why would you need shift lights? We've got paddles here which say up and down. Officially, these lights show you the battery state of charge. The paddles are to control the strength of the regen effect of the braking. But I think there's something else going on too. IMG going to do like step gear changes like you get in the Hyundai i510. Well, if you listen to the music again, which hopefully shows this video, you could hear the noise that the car can make.
Own a design studio. Win a really big design contract. Realize you're more than...
Hear the noise that the car can make. And that seems to have gear shifts. So it looks like you're going to have that kind of synthetic gear changes, which will be good. Now we'll come to how people are going to hear the noise in a moment, but let's continue with this interior, because if you look down
things that
here,
make life worth living. Those things become impossible when there's war and when there's conflict. So we're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done. But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day. This is really why I wanted this job, or why I embraced this job so much, is moments like this. This is, in essence, the Department of State is really the Department of Peace. It's designed to bring people together, both in our relations with other countries, but to the extent we can use the stature and the influence of the United States to bring others together. It makes the world a better place. And I honestly believe that when there's peace in the world among friends who may have disagreements and conflict, it does help America. It does help make America stronger and safer and more prosperous. It gives us partners we can do business with, and partners that we can work with to address insecurity and threats to our national security and to our collective national security. So we are grateful to both of you. I know how hard this was and how much work went into it, and we know there's more work to be done. But we are grateful to have you here today. We're honored to be a part of this. We're excited to be a part of it. And again, I do want to thank everyone here in our Africa Bureau and at the Department of State. And once again, our superstar there, Mr. Boulos. What do you want to do next after you're done with this? Sudan. Yeah, very important. Actually, very, very important. And you're very involved in that as well. So what are you guys doing this week in Qatar? You guys want to work a little? Yeah, we are grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of Rwanda for remarks.
Thank you. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Minister Thérèse Kaikwamba-Wagner, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mahmoud Yusuf, Minister of State Mohamed Ali Koulaifi of Qatar, my colleague, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Togo, Robert Dussey, Senators, dear colleagues, good afternoon. Let me begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to President Donald Trump for his personal engagement in facilitating this historic agreement. We also extend our gratitude to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Special Advisor Massad Boulos, and the entire State Department team. Your dedication has been indispensable. This agreement is the product of months of coordinated efforts by multiple actors. It is very important to note that the state of Qatar has played an absolutely central role. Indeed, the opening which led to today's agreement began in Doha. We will lend our full support in the weeks ahead to Qatar's mediation efforts led by Minister of State Mohamed Al Koulaifi to secure a peace agreement between the DRC government and the AFC M23. This process is already well underway. Today's agreement also builds on the African-led peace initiatives, which are ably led by the African Union facilitator, President Faure Gnassingbé of Togo. The heart of this peace agreement is the decision to establish a standing joint security coordination mechanism between DRC and Rwanda. The first order of business is to begin implementing of the concept of operations for the neutralization of the FDLR, to be accompanied by a lifting of Rwanda's defensive measures. This is grounded in the commitment made here for an irreversible and verifiable end to state support for FDLR and associated militias. That is the bedrock of peace and security in our region. FDLR is no ordinary militia. It is the remnant of the forces which committed the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, in which 1 million people were killed. With this agreement, we also committed to facilitate the return of refugees in our respective territories with the support of the UNHCR. Creating the conditions for the safe and dignified return of refugees is vital to achieve lasting peace. We also took to enhanced economic cooperation, including with American companies and investors. Shared growth and cross-border cooperation will unlock tangible dividends for both our countries. We must acknowledge that there is a great deal of uncertainty in our region and beyond, because many previous agreements have not been implemented, and there is no doubt that the road ahead will not be easy. But with the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments. To conclude, allow me to once again express Rwanda's appreciation to all who have contributed to this milestone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I now turn to the Foreign Minister of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Mr. Secretary of State, the Honorable Senator Marco Rubio, Dr. Massad Boulos, Senior Advisor for African Affairs, His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mr. Olivier Nduhungirehe, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Rwanda, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed bin Abdulaziz Khelaifi, Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar, His Excellency Mr. Robert Dussey, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Togo, Senators, Excellencies, distinguished guests, and to all Congolese citizens following this movement, wherever you may be. 2 months ago in this very room, we signed a declaration of principles, a first tangible step to break with deadlock and chart a path towards peace. Today, that choice takes shape and sustained efforts have come to fruition. With this peace agreement, we open a new chapter, one that calls not only for commitment, but for the courage to see it through. By signing this agreement, we reaffirm a simple truth. Peace is a choice, but also a responsibility to respect international law, to uphold human rights, and to protect the sovereignty of states. Those who have suffered the most are watching. They are expecting this agreement to be respected, and we cannot fail them. This agreement builds on the efforts of many. First and foremost, we want to express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Donald J. Trump for his commitment to this peace process. His leadership kept this process focused and goal-oriented, and that from day one. This was further characterized by the quality and resolve of the entire U.S. team, illustrated by the critical support of Senator Rubio and Dr. Boulos. We salute His Excellency President Félix-Antoine Tshisekedi Chilombo for choosing the harder path, a peace rooted in principle and in the dignity of our people. We thank President João Lourenço of Angola, facilitator of the Luanda process, for laying critical foundations. We are also grateful to the State of Qatar and to His Highness the Emir, whose leadership was instrumental in convening the first direct meeting between our two heads of states in March, a courageous step that laid the groundwork for dialogue. Qatar has since facilitated further talks in Doha and remained a principled and steady partner throughout this peace effort. The African Union, through its chairperson and the appointed facilitator, His Excellency Faure Gnassingbé of Togo, have anchored this process in African ownership. Finally, we thank the negotiating team of both the DRC and Rwanda for their perseverance and devotion. This moment has been long in coming. It will not erase the pain, but it can begin to restore what conflict has robbed many women, men, and children of: safety, dignity, and a sense of future. For the Great Lakes region, it offers a rare chance to turn the page, not just with words, but with real change on the ground. Some wounds will heal, but they will never fully disappear. They may grow over, but the skin will forever remain thin and frail, and deep down, the flesh will still remember. At times, we will feel numb, and at others, we will feel a sudden pang that will remind us of what was lost forever. The scars we carry on our bodies and in our souls will remind us of what must never be forgotten, repeated, or accepted. A few days ago in Kinshasa, a coalition of women's organizations shared a clear message with me. Nous ne voulons pas d'une paix d'élite. Nous voulons une paix réelle, vécue, partagée et construite avec nous. We do not want a peace shaped by elites. We want a peace that is real, lived, shared, and built with us. To our fellow citizens in the East, this agreement was signed with you in mind. It provides for the disengagement of armed forces, the protection of civilians, the return of displaced persons and of refugees under government authority, and establishes a follow-up mechanism to ensure compliance. These are not just words on paper. They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal. It must now be followed by disengagement, justice, and the return of displaced families, and the return of refugees, both to the DRC and Rwanda. However, no text, however carefully negotiated, can carry on its own the weight of peace. I still remember, on the day we signed the Declaration of Principles, a member of the US team said, "If it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago." That holds true now more than ever. What we have signed is only as strong as our will to implement it. We, the DRC, will certainly and resolutely fight for this agreement to be respected, not with our words, but with our deeds. Today, we have chosen peace. What matters now is that we protect it and prove to our people and to the world that even in a region marked by deep scars, dignity and cooperation can prevail. So now, our work truly begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. It's now my honor to invite the parties to sign the peace agreement to be witnessed by Secretary Rubio. The agreement being signed includes provisions on the respect for territorial integrity and the prohibition of hostilities, the disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, the establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism, the facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced text of the concept of operations of the harmonized plan for the neutralization of the FDLR and disengagement of forces / lifting of defensive measures by Rwanda, which was agreed to under the auspices of the Luanda process on October 31st, 2024.
What you're listening to right there, you're watching live as you have Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as well as the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda signing this peace agreement here. We heard from all three, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Now you have the handshakes and the clapping. We definitely wanted to bring that to you here live on Live Now from Fox, as it did happen in real time. All right, I do want to take you out to another breaking news story that we have been covering all throughout the last hour or so. And really, we've been covering this story over the past several weeks, as we now know that a hearing has been delayed until next week for the man accused of assassinating Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. I do want to bring in Paul Bloom at Fox 9 Minneapolis to talk more about all of this. Paul, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. I know that this was actually supposed to be a hearing on several topics there, talking about the possibility of bond and all of that, right?
Yeah, this was scheduled, Josh, at 11 a.m. local time, Central Time, here at the Federal Courthouse, U.S. District Court in downtown St. Paul. It was a preliminary hearing, making sure there's enough evidence to sort of move this case along towards trial, if that's where this ends up, as well as a detention hearing to set bond, any conditions, realistically, based on the crimes. Likely he is to whatever a judge would ultimately decide to remain behind bars while the case plays out. But it was interesting. Hearing was set to begin at 11 a.m. Vance Belter, this accused political assassin, accused of horrific crimes here in the Twin Cities area a couple weeks ago. He showed up. I immediately noticed his outfit. He was in a full body, what I would call a suicide protection suit. It was also referred to as a Gumby suit, fully padded, no undergarments, Velcroed at the shoulders, again, typically to protect someone from harming themselves. And what was interesting is as soon as the hearing began, his defense attorney turned and pointed to that suit and sort of described this as one example of how he is being treated inhumanely. He is being housed under U.S. Marshals supervision at a suburban jail north of the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. And they have said he's basically just been given a mat and no pillow to sleep on. He must wear that suicide protection suit at all times, no undergarments. They leave the lights on 24/7. They spoke about doors slamming all the time, cells slamming. He's got headaches. He can't sleep. An inmate next to him is spreading feces all around the cell, and the smell is overcoming him. And basically, she said he is in no state to move forward with such important matters in the legal proceedings. The government spoke briefly. They said they have shared the same concerns about how he's being treated at this jail. They're working with the U.S. Marshals. They're working with the county jail there to get the situation remedied. But for now, the magistrate judge basically agreed with the defense and said, yeah, given his current status, let's delay this 1 week, maybe get him in a better frame, improve his conditions, let him get some sleep, some rest, so he can talk with his attorneys and then address these legal matters. But really stunning developments for what we were expecting were going to be very much legal proceedings, but it turned into this sort of statement on the conditions he is facing in the Sherburne County Jail up in Elk River, Minnesota.
And Paul, any indication from the judge, anything of that nature, legal experts, that there is even a chance that he could be granted bond and released until the trial?
I mean, the universal feeling up here is no. I mean, these crimes are unprecedented. We certainly cover enough federal criminal court cases in this jurisdiction to recognize people are held in custody pending proceedings for far lesser crimes. So experts, the judge it wasn't even an issue, so we couldn't even, read tea leaves with this judge. He didn't even, make any comments. But it is a detention hearing. All defendants are entitled to one, but the sentiment is up here that realistically any federal judge at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the DOJ, will specifically ask for him to be held pending trial or the continuation of this case, and the expectation would certainly be this judge would sign off on that.
And my last question here before I let you go, because I know there's a lot going on there. Yeah. We obviously know that Melissa Hortman is lying in state alongside her husband right now, but a lot of folks aren't necessarily following every detail of the situation that happened earlier on this month at their home. Can you explain kind of the latest information that we do have? I know there is a lot, but there's still an active investigation going on.
Yeah, no, the dots still have to be connected. This potentially has as a capital punishment type case. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office here in the District of Minnesota will have to make a decision ultimately whether or not that if convicted, that sort of all of the totality of what happened that overnight, early Saturday morning, did in fact happen, and that Vance Belter, if this is the direction they want to go, want to seek a death penalty in this case. So this is serious. They're connecting the dots here. The search warrants, all the search warrants have become public in the last few days to sort of shed more light on what was going on during the search for Vance Belter. Before I get deeply into that, just want to point out to our viewers here, because you mentioned it, it is a very delicate day. I am in downtown St. Paul, and about a half mile up the road here, if you walk directly to my right here, is the state capitol, and that is where the Hortmans are lying in state. So about a 5-10 minute walk up the road. So you think about the sort of dueling locations today, just how delicate feeling it is around here in downtown St. Paul. But to the case, yes, this was, again, it's Vance Belter accused of dressing up like a police, law enforcement. On the morning of the shootings, he went to one senator's house where he shot. He's accused of shooting multiple times a senator and his wife. He looked... It's understood now that he visited 2 other lawmakers. One wasn't home. One, he had an encounter with law enforcement and drove off. And then finally, the 4th house, the Hortmans, he goes up. He identifies himself as police. And then there's gunfire at the front door just as police are arriving. And it's believed that Vance Belter, assassinated Melissa Hortman, her husband, killed the family dog on his way through the house, which led to this massive manhunt that took law enforcement, the largest manhunt in Minnesota history. Took him some 42 hours to track him down, about an hour away near his home in a rural county south of the Twin Cities. So a horrific crime. Melissa Hortman, a one-time Democratic state Speaker of the House, killed. Her husband killed. They are being remembered today. Their funerals are tomorrow.
Paul Bloom there over at Fox 9 Minneapolis. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. Obviously a very, as you mentioned, delicate day here as all of this is going on. So thank you again.
You bet, Josh. Thanks for having me.
And of course, we will have coverage of that funeral service tomorrow morning with the help of our Fox 9 Minneapolis team. You have to head to a quick break here, 1:24 on the East Coast and 10:24 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and you're watching Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. It is 1:26 on the East Coast and 10:26 on the West Coast. I do want to take you back out to a story that we have been following, as we do have this live image coming in from outside of the Supreme Court at this hour as we get to the latest here on the birthright citizenship ruling. A divided Supreme Court ruling that individual judges lack the authority to grant nationwide injunctions, but that ruling leaving the fate of President Trump's restrictions on birthright unclear, as the conservative majority left open the possibility that the citizenship changes could remain blocked nationwide. On the first day of President Trump's second term, he signed an executive order denying citizenship to children born in the U.S. The right was enshrined soon after the Civil War back in the Constitution's 14th Amendment. The president's order was quickly blocked by several judges, so the Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to rule on the authority of individual judges to issue nationwide injunctions on the issue. In the majority opinion released today, Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote that the cases will now return to the lower courts, where judges will have to decide how to tailor their orders to comply with the high court ruling. We do have Rebecca Castor breaking down all of the latest information after a short time ago we did hear from President Trump.
In a monumental ruling from the Supreme Court, the Trump administration could soon be allowed to deny citizenship to children of illegal migrants born in the U.S. The justices ruling 6-3 to limit nationwide injunctions, meaning President Trump's executive order on this may soon take effect.
It is really surprising that the Supreme Court chose the birthright citizenship question as the vehicle for ending nationwide injunctions. It's going to create a lot more chaos.
This case centered on the 14th Amendment, which says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. But the justices didn't weigh in on whether the children of illegal migrants are protected by that. Instead, their decision focused solely on the rights of lower courts to influence policy across the country, a right the justices say is limited.
What's going to happen now is that the Trump administration will have to stop its executive orders only in the courts where those judges decide against them, but still be able to pursue their policies in the rest of the country.
Since Trump has returned to office, federal judges have issued more than 40 nationwide injunctions blocking his agenda. This ruling likely overturns many, if not all of those. In a dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor says the parents of children covered by the citizenship order would be well advised to file promptly class action suits and request temporary injunctive relief.
With the constitutional question of who the 14th Amendment protects still unanswered and that push for more legal action, this issue could end up back here next term. From the Supreme Court, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Rebecca, thank you so much, and we will follow all of the latest developments on that here on Live Now from Fox. And if you do want to watch those full comments from President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi, just go to our YouTube page, as we will have that entire press conference there uploaded here. Again, just go to YouTube and search Live Now from Fox. While you're there, hit that subscribe button and you'll get alerts anytime we have full videos like that or breaking news. And I can tell you, if today's any indication, we do have a lot of it. We are going to head to a quick 2-minute commercial break, but so much more news to get to here in just a few. You're watching Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 1:32 on the East Coast and 10:32 on the West Coast. I did want to take you out to this live image that we do now have coming into our newsroom, as we know that Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman, her husband, and their dog are lying in state right now in the Minnesota State Capitol. You can see folks are lining up and they are walking through. Now, this is expected to continue until about 5 p.m. Central Time, that is 6 p.m. Eastern Time, as everyone gathers ahead of that funeral to pay their respects and say their final goodbye. We also know a hearing for the suspect was expected to be held earlier on today. However, as we heard from Paul Bloom a short time ago over at Fox 9 Minneapolis, that hearing has now been postponed until next week, and it is going to be a preliminary hearing, but also essentially a detention hearing to determine if he will be granted bond prior to his trial there. But again, today is all about the Minnesota lawmaker, her husband, and their dog, who are lying in state right there. And we do have an aerial camera inside the Minnesota State Capitol. The funeral is set for tomorrow. It should begin around 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That is 10:30 a.m. Central. And we will bring you that service on Live Now from Fox, as we know that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is expected to speak, along with several family members and others. I do want to take you out to a news conference right now that is getting underway here, as we do have, and we're just going to listen in, because this is the Chimney Rock State Park reopening over in North Carolina. So we have Governor Josh Stein, who is going to be joined by several other officials there. This just popped up on our stream, so let's lift up the audio and listen in.
Again, to celebrate that we're here, this mountain is open, and you can come back. You can come back to Western North Carolina, come back to Chimney Rock. We're so excited. We couldn't have done it without all the partners here, everybody from our community people, the good old boys who were cutting people out, to all our local officials and county officials, all the way up to our federal government who came in and helped. So we want to thank everybody for everything they've done, and we couldn't do it without the leadership of this man right here, Governor Josh Stein.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. What a happy day. Our First Lady Anna is here with me, and we are so excited to be at Chimney Rock State Park. I want to thank Superintendent Ledgerwood for that introduction and for his heroic rescue work, both while the storm was going and in its immediate aftermath. He was out there trying to keep people alive, and you and so many other first responders made a huge difference. And actually, I want to thank all of our first responders, if we could right now. A lot of folks worked really hard so that we could be here today. I want to thank the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. I want to thank the state parks. I want to thank the Department of Transportation. I want to thank the local Chimney Rock and Lake Lure leaders and the state legislators for all of their tireless efforts to get us here today. I see Representative Jake Johnson back there, Representative Carl Gillespie over here, Representative Eric Ager right here, Senator Julie Mayfield, Senator Tim Moffitt. Is Representative Scott here? Yes. Oh, Representative Paul Scott is here. Thank you for being here as well. I want to give a lot of acknowledgement to our Secretary of Department and Natural Cultural Resources, Pam Cashwell, and Secretary of Transportation, Joey Hopkins. They worked together like the team that they are to move as quickly as they possibly could so that we could get across that river and be back up here. Let's thank both of them. I also want to thank
economic populist, but when you kind of go deeper, there is this lingering, there is some of this woke flavor to some of his policies, and that comes from one of his planning documents. And like I said, just yesterday, he's already starting to talk about DEI. And so there are a lot of questions on what he actually believes and stands for. And I think what you're looking at is a trail of what he really does.
All right. Well, we look forward to more of your coverage. Olivia, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have a great weekend. Molly?
HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a vaccine advisory panel have voted to recommend RSV shots for infants, but that panel is urging for flu vaccines without the mercury-based preservative thimerosal for children and pregnant women. We bring in now Dr. Mark Siegel. Delighted to have you here, Fox News senior medical analyst. Dr. Siegel, this is fascinating, and it's controversial perhaps mostly because there's a new panel, and so people have all eyes on this panel. But what I find so fascinating about this particular issue is that thimerosal, it's used in a tiny percentage of the actual flu vaccines. And one of the controversies is that this could keep people, for some reason, from getting the flu vaccine. But there are a lot of opportunity out there. Your thoughts on this issue?
Well, you just framed it really well, Molly. 96% of all flu vaccines don't have it. What the preservative thimerosal is used for is bundling vaccines together, which makes it cheaper and preventing bacterial contamination. But back in the 1990s, they made a big push to get it out, and 96% don't have it. So for the vast majority of people in the United States, it's not even an issue. Now, thimerosal is based on ethyl mercury, which the body clears much more rapidly than it does methyl mercury, which is in fish and in the environment. And a huge study out of Denmark in the 90s, which looked at the entire population of kids born over the 90s, most of the 90s, didn't show an association between thimerosal and autism. So there's clearly no proof relaying it.
But Transportation built that awesome temporary bridge and fixed up the roads so that we could ride up them. And now, because of so many people's commitment and hard work, I am absolutely thrilled to declare that Chimney Rock State Park is reopened. We ask people to register on the website in advance until we get everything fully all the kinks worked out, but come and visit. Chimney Rock is just one of the many places that makes Western North Carolina unforgettable. So it is a perfect place for us to kick off a new tourism campaign that the state is operating along with Visit NC called Western North Carolina Rediscover the Unforgettable. In partnership with Visit NC, I'm pleased to announce a travel and tourism initiative designed to get people back out west and help them rediscover this unforgettable part of our state. There's something in Western North Carolina for everyone. Unforgettable landscapes, unforgettable adventure, unforgettable food, wine, and craft beer, unforgettable crafts, music, and culture, and most importantly, unforgettable people. When folks from all over the state, all over the country, heck, all over the world come here to spend their vacation and their tourism dollars here, we remind the neighbors of Western North Carolina that we will be with them until the end. This summer and fall, the First Lady and I hope to be up here as much as we possibly can in Western North Carolina. Looking forward to doing new activities. We've got zip lines tomorrow, trying out different restaurants, taking in these incredible views. And by the way, I've got a much better view than you do. It's amazing out there. We encourage all people in Western North Carolina, all people watching this footage, come to Western North Carolina. If you have never been here, you will be delighted. And if you have been here, rediscover the unforgettable and come back. And as if today couldn't get any better, I have one more piece of good news. Last night, these hard-working legislators passed House Bill 1012. It is a $575 million relief bill for Hurricane Helene so that we can have more success stories like here at Chimney Rock, and we can keep inviting people back to Western North Carolina. The bill also extends the state of emergency to October 1st so that we can continue to expedite recovery efforts, in particular our repair work of private roads and bridges. It includes $75 million for those private roads and bridges, in addition to money to fight wildfires, prevent landslides, repair dams, and support our schools and local governments. It passed both chambers unanimously, and I am excited right now to make this bill a law. More money for Western North Carolina recovery. How fun is this? There is still so much more work to be done. We still need to support our small businesses with forgivable loans so that they can keep providing jobs and growing the economy. I call on the legislature to include that in the next recovery relief package. We still need to invest in more affordable housing because too many renters have lost their homes. We still need to invest in resiliency, whether it's dealing with flooding or downed power lines. And we need Washington, D.C. not to forget us. I have an $11.5 billion appropriation request sitting before the Congress and the administration as we speak. Every day, we have a lot of work to do, but it's also good to take stock and recognize that today is a good day. Chimney Rock State Park is reopened to the public. Our Unforgettable Western North Carolina ad campaign has been launched, and this appropriations law is an important step forward. I thank the General Assembly for putting in the work and making it happen. Thank you. Let's keep good news coming for Western North Carolina.
Good afternoon, everyone.
All right, so Chimney Rock State Park officially reopened months after the impacts of Hurricane Helene. This has been an extensive cleanup in that area, and we did want to bring you the comments there from Governor Josh Stein as he did officially reopen that state park. 1:45 on the East Coast and 10:45 on the West Coast. We are going to head to a quick break, but a lot more news to get to coming up in just a few. Stay with us.
And the importance of protecting our Judeo-Christian foundations as we move forward. God has given us an assignment to bring our faith into our world today, and here's the catch. It starts with focusing on our own attitudes. When you take time to understand how God has consistently blessed America, pouring his grace and mercy on us over and over again, it will give you hope for the days ahead. It's called God Bless America Again. We'll sharpen your perspective on what it means to bring God's truth into our nation today. Go to alanjackson.com/Charlie on God Bless America Again. That is alanjackson.com/Charlie. alanjackson.com/Charlie. Email us as always, freedom@charliekirk.com, and subscribe to the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. We're going to go straight through the breaks. Stay right there. Subscribe to our podcast. Okay, Greg, thank you for being a member. Okay, Greg, thank you for being a member.
7 on the East Coast and 10:47 on the West Coast. It is a big day of breaking news here on Live Now from Fox, and I do want to take you to another story that we are following right now as we get all of the information coming in here. Here is the information as we take a look over at Washington, D.C., as the Trump administration's Department of Homeland Security ending temporary protection status, that is TPS, for roughly 520,000 Haitians currently residing in the U.S. Taking a live look over the Capitol at this hour, as again, all of this information here is just coming in. The TPS designations for the country will officially expire August 3rd of 2025, and the termination will be effective on Tuesday, September 2nd of this year. A DHS spokesperson saying, quote, "This decision restores integrity in our immigration system and ensures that temporary protective status is actually temporary." Quote, "The environmental situation in Haiti has improved enough that it is safe for Haitian citizens to return home. We encourage these individuals to take advantage of the department's resources in returning to Haiti, which can be arranged through the CBP Home app. Haitian nationals may pursue lawful status through other immigration benefit requests if eligible," end quote. Kristi Noem made the decision to revoke TPS status after reviewing a U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services report, which showed that Haiti no longer meets the statutory requirements that grant foreign residents the ability to obtain temporary protected status. Sources at DHS tell Fox News that they are encouraging Haitians in the U.S. under TPS to use the CBP Home app to secure a safe departure with a complimentary plane ticket and a $1,000 exit bonus. TPS was created by Congress in the Immigration Act of 1990 with the intention of allowing residents of countries who face natural disasters, war,
first, let's get
or
started
other unsafe
with this one. We can now confirm that Iran's
conditions.
nuclear capabilities have been obliterated. Kudos to the men and women who flew around the world to conduct this surgical strike on the Islamic Republic. But you got to pour some out for all the libs who had to swap out their flags for the 4th time this month. We've gone from Palestinian flags to pride flags to Mexican flags, and now we're on Iranian flags. And you've heard of Operation Midnight Hammer. If Dems were still in charge, it maybe would have been more like this: Operation Midnight Hammered. Am I right? 2 there from Silent Meme Jordy to start us off. Well, the Ayatollah finally reappeared this week after the strikes. The supreme leader said his country had, quote, delivered a hand slap to the American face. He also said the American regime entered the war directly because it felt that if it hadn't, the Zionist regime, Israel, would have been completely destroyed. Ayatollah, more like Cryatollah. The Ayatollah sounds a lot like someone else we know when it comes to bashing Israel and being a hater. Here's Arandis, speaking of haters. Now, when it comes to the Pentagon, Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffith tried to take on Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, but failed.
Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst. The one who misrepresents the most intentionally.
See the resemblance here? This one from Gurr Graphics. Yeah, Pete. Anyway, here's this.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Oh, wow. This week, when asked about the end of the 12-day war, the president dropped an F-bomb on Israel and Iran. And, of course, an iconic new meme was born. This from that Southern dude. Trump dropped an F-bomb while talking to the press. Pretty cool, wasn't it? Right, ladies? Pretty cool. And social media influencer Gunther Eagleman highlighting presidential rhetoric over the decades, everything from 7 years ago. The only thing we had to fear is fear itself. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall, and now we're here. They don't know what the F they're doing. Now, when he was at the NATO summit, President Trump had a meeting with Zelensky, and Zelensky even wore a suit. Check it out. A very small suit, we should say here. This one from the Rican memes. And back to the topic of Zohran Mamdani's victory in the New York City Democratic mayoral primary has everyone talking about this guy. He's officially a socialist, but he's also a Jew-hating Muslim who's called for the elimination of Israel and wants to globalize the Intifada. Coming soon to New York, according to Grand Old Memes, This could be the Statue of Liberty. And did everyone see that Hamas has now taken responsibility for Mamdani's victory, this one from the Babylon Bee? And as for his communist tendencies, here's a look at the future. New York City residents visiting Hoboken in a grocery store after he takes control of the bodegas and grocery stores in the city. This one kind of is a throwback. That is Boris Yeltsin there visiting an American grocery store. Anyway, that one from Robert Sterling. And also, some people call him a Marxist, maybe a Maoist. Grand Old Memes is more of a Mamdani kind of guy, right? And Mamdani's victory also making international headlines. The Times of London did a story about how millionaires are already thinking about fleeing the city. And this is me at the border of Florida asking New Yorkers, what kind of New Yorker are you? Are you going to vote Republican? Finally, this is a shot of Republicans voting for Eric Adams this November to prevent Mamdani from winning. You might not like it. It might not be your thing, but you might have to do it anyway. All right, let's welcome back our panelists. Alexis, first to you. What kind of meme do you have for us this week?
So I have for you, I love the memes where it shows, my money and somehow also my money. But this one was I think, interesting play on that. I don't know. Okay, there we go. Obama negotiating with Iran by handing them pallets. I feel like we all too soon forget how they even acquired the money and ability to do this in the first place. So let's not forget. And then there's Trump negotiating with Iran, which is obviously what took place this past week. So
yeah, I remember John Kirby, he was all saying this money would not be used for anything nefarious. And of course, he was asked later how the money was being used. And well, I can't comment on how the money is being used. I also saw somebody made a T-shirt with the B-2 bomber and the bombs on it, and just the text at the bottom said, "Thank you for your attention to this matter," which is another iconic thing that Donald Trump did this week. All right, Sabrina, what do you got for us? I think we have a soundbite for yours. Let's listen here.
We have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I think every parent combo has had that conversation.
Oh, yeah. I think every parent saw themselves in President Trump this week. I mean, I felt like Israel and Iran were just two toddlers going at it. And no matter how much you tried to negotiate peace, sometimes you just have to let them fight it out and step away.
Well, fortunately, I think we have peace, thanks to the 12-day war. We'll see President Trump talking about that. And no matter what Iran says on their state media, I bet they are more willing to make a deal right now than they were this time last week after those bombs were dropped there. All right, ladies, great to have you both here with us today. We'll do it again soon, hopefully. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, John.
All right, Sabrina Cosmas and Alexis Wilkins, two of the best out there. All right, that's going to do it for this Friday edition of John Bachman Now. Stay tuned. National Desk with Kelly Sadler and Bob Sellers is up next. We leave you here with an Earth Cam shot. This is Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, where I bet a lot of those New Yorkers now are looking for their own condos. But like I said, don't come down here and bring that New York politics with you. We don't want it. Florida's full for the most part, but we'll take some refugees. Have a great weekend, everyone. Stay tuned. We'll have the big focus coming up here on N2, and we'll be back with you on Monday. Take care.
Nothing is off limits to David Harris Jr., and there's no apologies, because he's armed with common sense, real faith, and the truth. Don't miss him on The Pulse tonight. Nothing is off limits to David.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-823-4108 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-823-4108. 1-800-823-4108. Call now.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
If you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, well, your favorite attorney has a message for you. Collision, calamity, catastrophe? Are you innocent, faultless, above reproach? If you want money, you need an attorney. You need a bulldog. But finding one, it's laborious, it's strenuous, it's stupefying. That's why you gotta call the number on your screen now.
To get your own bulldog, call your favorite attorney now.
They'll help you connect to a legal expert. You have questions, they have answers. They know the legalese, the lingo, the jargon, and the argot.
When I got hit by a car, I was confused, confounded, and concerned. But calling left me calm, composed, and comforted. Thanks, your favorite attorney.
They'll even tell you how much money your case could be worth. $300,000, $2 million, $86,491, all sorts of numbers.
Call your favorite attorney now. He'd call you, but he doesn't have your number.
Call 800-513-2164.
Slip and falls, work accidents, car, truck, bus, motorcycle, motorbike, e-bike, tandem bike. These bulldogs will make sure people pay. And if you don't get paid, the attorneys don't get paid, and I don't get paid.
After I was blindsided and sideswiped by a fat tire e-bike towing a skateboarder, I didn't know what to do. But a friend recommended that I call his favorite attorney. And I got results. Now, he's my favorite attorney.
It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle it was. As long as it had an engine and the accident wasn't your fault, call your favorite attorney now.
I compel you, I implore you, I beseech you to pick up that phone and call now to see what your case could be worth.
To get a windfall, you first need to call.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
So if you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, call your favorite attorney now.
Call 800-513-2164. That's 800-513-2164.
You first need to call.
And good afternoon. Welcome to the National Desk on N2. I'm Bob Sellers.
And I'm Kelly Sadler. Thanks for joining us. A major decision from the Supreme Court handing President Trump a big win on executive power. The High Court ruling district judges don't have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions to block the president's executive orders. President Trump calling the ruling a monumental victory for the Constitution. The president spoke from the White House briefing room a short time ago. The High Court ruling district judges don't have
Colossal abuse of power, which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem.
Well, Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen joins us now live from the Supreme Court with more on the rulings today. James.
I'm grateful to the Supreme Court.
Bob and Kelly, good afternoon from the Supreme Court, where this is the final day of the 2024-25 term, and there were 6 decisions outstanding for which we were waiting to see the opinions handed down, and we got them all when the justices emerged from behind the crimson drapes in the great courtroom precisely at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. When they are in session, it's always that way with crisp efficiency. And then we saw, in essence, the Supreme Court rule for the Trump administration and really for executive branch authority that will apply to future administrations as well in a series of big cases today, after which President Trump commented, as we saw in the briefing room at the White House following the conclusion of today's Supreme Court session.
So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. It's a giant. It's a giant.
The decision the president was referencing that's going to make all of that possible was in the so-called birthright citizenship case. We saw a 6-3 decision handed down by the Supreme Court today, split along ideological lines, as was the case in all of the decisions we'll be discussing here, with the conservatives in the majority, the three liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson in the minority, dissenting each time. This was called the birthright citizenship case because the president issued an executive order back in February denying birthright citizenship if you weren't born in this country, if you weren't a legal U.S. citizen. And now that conflicted with about 150 years of law, and that executive order was challenged on constitutional grounds. A federal district judge at the district level not only halted the enforcement of that executive order, but halted it across the country. They call those nationwide or universal injunctions. The Trump administration believes no single district judge at the district level should have the power to make or break or halt executive branch policy like that. They should only be able to issue rulings that apply in their district, and there are 94 of those federal districts across the country. The Supreme Court today ruled 6-3, not perhaps quite as sweeping as the Trump administration wanted, but still a significant victory for the president and for future presidents, that federal district judges, if they want to issue a nationwide injunction, will have to prove that there is a really serious need for it. Otherwise, the Supreme Court sent a strong signal to those federal district judges today that if they insist on issuing a nationwide injunction, it's not probably going to fare very well at the Supreme Court. So not a complete ban on that practice, but a severe limiting of it, and one that, as you saw, the president celebrated. We move now to the online pornography case out of Texas. A few years ago, the Lone Star State enacted a new law regulating online pornography sites, saying that if you make about a third of your revenues from the presentation of material that might be considered obscene, you have to include on those websites age verification mechanisms to protect minors from accessing that material. The adult entertainment industry banded together and formed what they called a free speech coalition and sued on the grounds that the Texas law unfairly infringes on the free speech rights of the adult entertainment industry. So often these things turn not on whether individual justices like or don't like pornography, but rather on narrow legal grounds. And what the justices were deciding today was whether the lower court, the Court of Appeals, one rung below the Supreme Court, employed the right level of scrutiny in reviewing the lawfulness of the Texas statute. There could, depending on which of these levels of scrutiny you employ, you could get a different outcome as to the fate of the legality of that law. And so, for example, the minimum would be just a rational basis if the Texas lawmakers had some rational basis for enacting such a law. The highest scrutiny applied to the law would be strict scrutiny, in which case the state of Texas would have to prove some compelling state interest for limiting the free speech rights of the adult entertainment industry. Well, the justices ruled 6-3, majority opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas, ruling that on the basis of what they called intermediate scrutiny, that the Texas law may stand. Once again, the three so-called liberal justices, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, in the minority there. Finally, we turn to a case out of Maryland. This was an instance where religious parents sued to prevent local school authorities in the state of Maryland from assigning coursework and reading materials relating to LGBTQ issues. Once again, a 6-3 majority made up of the so-called conservatives on the court, this time the opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito. Once again, the three so-called liberals on the court, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, in the minority. And here, the ruling, the effect of the ruling was to say, in essence, that parents can seek and secure injunctions at the local district level so that they can halt, while additional hearings are held, the assignment of this kind of LGBTQ material to their students. Once again, not the most sweeping ruling where, in essence, the Supreme Court decreed that this kind of material is banned from the schools, but nonetheless sending a strong signal to the school authorities that the parents and to local courts, that the parents are to be treated on an equal level with school authorities as litigants in these kinds of matters, and suggesting suggesting to these local judges that rule on these kinds of complaints that if it should reach the Supreme Court, the 6-3 majority, the conservative majority, probably won't smile on the assignment of this kind of coursework over the objections of parents. It's a major victory, if not the most sweeping one, for this new movement we've seen arise in recent years amongst conservatives around the country, organized around parents' rights. It was the central plank of Glenn Youngkin's successful campaign for governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia some years ago, and now that movement has received the kind of stamp of approval from the Supreme Court of the United States. Bob and Kelly.
All right, James Rosen, thank you, sir.
Let's bring in now distinguished university professor at Touro University and Newsmax contributor, Thane Rosenbaum. Thane, I think the biggest decision today was that on the 14th Amendment, though the Supreme Court didn't rule on the 14th Amendment per se, it is now not allowing district court judges to issue nationwide injunctions. Can you tell us what this means both for the Trump administration but also for future presidents?
Well, Kelly, what the court giveth, the court can also taketh away. And I think Donald Trump realizes that it's possible that this very same group of Supreme Court justices might rule against him on birthright citizenship, right? This case may show up on the merits, and they say that the 14th Amendment applies even to the children of illegal immigrants. But for now, Donald Trump was after something for him that was more important, which is that of his many, many executive orders, 40 of them were put on ice, frozen, by a single federal district judge who said, yeah, not only do I not like this rule here for my state, whether it's Massachusetts or Maryland or Washington, I don't like it anywhere. And so therefore, it doesn't apply to any child born of any parents who have no permanent residency in the United States and entered illegally. It doesn't apply to them. And so this concept of the nationwide injunction is what happened today, where the court said, essentially, Amy Coney Barrett's opinion said, federal district judges do not have oversight over the executive branch. You don't run the executive branch. And that's why Donald Trump was so excited, because you saw him essentially say, this is a big win, because it's not just this case, but arguably the other 39 cases. The question is, could they all have been enjoined nationally, which is known as universal injunctive relief? And the court basically said that is way too sweeping a power without deciding on the merits of birthright citizenship. They were really talking about the power of a single judge, unelected. Remember, it's 1,000 judges around the country that could put a stop to federal policy with one sweep of a pen.
When it came to Brown v. Board of Education, which undid Plessy versus Ferguson, there was segregation at the time, and then Brown v. Board led to integration and got rid of that. And they had combined some cases. So is this a situation in which cases will be combined and it'll end up in front of the Supreme Court? And one of the reasons that I'm curious about that is back then, segregation was the standard. It kept going until Brown v. Board of Education from the Supreme Court. And right now, the history of the 14th Amendment would be it's still in effect, yet it almost appears as though the Supreme Court is saying to the president, you can go ahead with your executive orders and policies that treat it in your interpretation instead of previous interpretations.
Kelly, he's good, right? That was good, Bob. I think that, remember, people forget, in the 19th century, there were no immigration laws for the most part, except with respect to Chinese Americans in California. Everything was, written by Emma Lazarus on the Statue of Liberty, give us your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. So right now, it's only really since World War I that we started to create laws stemming the tide of immigration. Before that, we had gigantic waves of people came here, and there was no question that they all, after 5 years, in some cases 14 years, they all automatically became citizens. So again, the Supreme Court is going to say, all right, well, the 14th Amendment was written, yes, in the aftermath of the Civil War, But does it mean what Donald Trump says it means? He said it again today in a press conference. The children of slaves. He says that. He may or may not be right. The Supreme Court's going to say, you know, Mr. President, 150 years ago, there was a Chinese American who was born here of parents who were not born here. And we ultimately ruled that the 14th Amendment's birthright citizenship clause applied to him. So they have to overturn that case, Bob. They have to literally say that decision was incorrectly decided because that Chinese American, I think it was 1898, his parents were not here legally. They were not citizens of the United States. They'd have to overturn that decision. That's why I don't know if President Trump realizes this is not a slam dunk. He gets a good slam dunk on the concept of injunctive relief nationwide. This does not, as you pointed out, does not, in my view, give him any certainty that he'll win on birthright citizenship.
On getting the, injunctions stopped nationwide, I mean, Amy Coney Barrett is the one who wrote that opinion, and Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the dissent. I just want to ask you, I know a lot of conservatives have been upset at Amy Coney Barrett and some of her rulings, siding with the liberal side of the Supreme Court, but I mean, she took direct aim at Brown Jackson today by saying to her, basically, you believe you have such warnings against an imperial president, but you want to make an imperial judiciary, and that should not stand. I mean, did you find that pot shot by Amy Coney Barrett is that common in Supreme Court rulings?
Kelly, I have one word for that. Ouch. That's going to sting. That's going to leave a mark. They oftentimes take a little swipe at each other. Sometimes it's friendlier, but this one, in my view, was much sharper. She's like saying, where are you going with this? You're claiming that the presidency now has unlimited power. And what you're really saying instead is you want the courts to have unlimited power. So just relax, because this country's based on the concept of separation of powers. And we don't believe that any one of the branches has unlimited power. So you're right that she took a jab at her because she was just basically turning the tables and saying, somebody has to have complete power. If it's not the president, I want it to be the courts. And Justice Barrett is saying, I'll tell you what, it's not the courts, especially in a decision like this. Why? Because judges aren't elected. Donald Trump was elected. These federal district judges have lifetime appointment. They're not picked by the people. How can they overturn federal policies by the president who just wins a sweeping majority of votes? So clearly that's why Justice Barrett said, the courts do not have oversight over the presidency. They can determine questions of constitutionality of decisions, but they can't stop the president from implementing his policy. Let me tell you something else, Kelly, that social conservatives should like about Justice Barrett today. Today, I think she does redeem herself in the eyes of social conservatives. She spoke as a mother at the court when it was during the oral argument of the Texas case dealing with age verification for porn sites. That case also came down in favor of the state of Texas and parents who want to make sure that their children can be shielded from porn sites. And the argument was a First Amendment argument that the government can't force an adult to give his or her name and information by regulation. It violates my First Amendment rights to not have to speak if I don't want to, simply because you're trying to protect kids. I have a First Amendment right not to give you my personal information of my age and where I'm born and where's my address. And Amy Coney Barrett showed up as a mom. And she said, you know what? In the new days of digital life and phones, parents simply cannot control the content of their kids on phones. And so that we're going to say, even if you think you're losing some of your First Amendment protections, the kids need to be protected because the parents can't possibly monitor all the content that children will see. And so today was a good day for her in terms of her rulings on behalf of religious conservatives and social conservatives.
All right, Thane Rosenbaum, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you both.
On Capitol Hill, top intel officials have been briefing House lawmakers on the Iran strikes. Earlier today, President Trump asked if he believes Iran has given up its nuclear ambitions. Here was his response.
But I don't believe that they're going to go back into nuclear anytime soon. They spent over $1 trillion on nuclear, and they never got it together. And nothing was moved from the site, by the way. To do that is very dangerous. It's very, very heavy material. Those cars were most likely the cars of masons because they were pouring concrete at the top, at the hatch, as you know, the hatch going into the nuclear site. They wanted to reinforce it, and they had some masons there pouring concrete. By the way, that concrete was obliterated. It hit exactly at the concrete. It was, I don't think it had a chance to dry. But everything's down there. It's under millions of tons of rock.
Joining us now on set, former Undersecretary of Defense and former Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Robert Wilkie. Robert, people may have seen the picture of those trucks lined up, and the presumption was that they may be taking some of that material somewhere else, wherever that might be. Now, the president's saying they were, I've seen cement trucks. They didn't look like cement trucks. I'm not saying they weren't trying to close it up. How do we know? I mean, other than believing the president, I know we're supposed to believe everything he says, but as journalists, just answer the question.
Yeah,
what do you think?
He has intelligence that we can't see, but no, with the Iranians, it probably was an act of desperation, and there's always a chance that they were able to move something out of those sites. But the key factor is, and I hate to say it, I never quote the United Nations, but the IAEA said that their ability to reconstitute those sites is nil. Just the shock waves alone would have destroyed those centrifuges. And you're talking about thousands of instruments to separate the uranium into yellow cake, and then you add the gases, and that produces the elements that you can make a nuclear weapon with. So I don't think that they're in ability for many years, have the ability for many years to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the president had some tough words for the Ayatollah today.
Yes.
He said in his press conference that he doesn't like the statements the Iranian leader is making. And then moments ago on Truth Social, this is what he said. He said, I knew exactly where he was sheltered and would not let Israel or the U.S. armed forces, by far the greatest and most powerful in the world, terminate his life. And he goes on in another Truth Social to say, Iran better get its act together. Yep. And you better participate with us in Israel and cooperate on the world stage. And right now you're not doing that.
Right. And by the way, the USS Gerald Ford just arrived on site, which means there are over 200 naval aircraft sitting in the Persian Gulf and in the Indian Ocean pointed at you. And by the way, the Ayatollah was moving around. He was in a different bunker today. His own people may get rid of it, but it was just pure nonsense, the kind of nonsense that you see from totalitarians. Because in the same speech that he said the U.S. and Israel were beaten, he said that Tel Aviv was flat, that the Iranians had destroyed Tel Aviv. He has to make a decision. He is surrounded by the world's most powerful force and the most powerful force in the Middle East. He has no conventional force left. And his regime is hanging by a thread. So the president is telling him, do you want to survive? Or look out your window because look what's sitting right out there. Mm-hmm. And we can touch you, reach out and touch you anytime we want to.
So you're saying the use of force is still on the table?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
From Israel or from the United States?
From both of
States.
How do you negotiate at this point with a regime that's weak and you really don't want in power? I mean, if I'm reading the tea leaves, Netanyahu certainly, and the president probably don't want the Ayatollah there, although if they wanted to get rid of him, they clearly could. It's the president saying, but we went through that once.
Right. Weak and messianic. Remember, this is like a death cult. The Ayatollahs represent.
Which is why you don't want them to have nuclear weapons.
Which is exactly why you don't want them to have nuclear weapons. I think the president's giving them an opportunity. I don't think they will take it. And I do think, first, Netanyahu is poised to take care of the leadership. He's taking care of all of the elements below the Ayatollah. But their regime is almost defunct. And so the question is, and I know the Israelis have been reaching out to the Iranian army, which is not the same as the Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Quds Force, saying you guys have an opportunity to take your country in a different direction. These things have happened before, where the conservative elements, conservative in the good sense, have risen to take out an authoritarian regime.
So, I mean, this is far from over.
Absolutely.
Right? The president likes to say it was a 12-day war, and both sides fought very hard, but we still have a presence in the Middle East right now. Iran, we're meeting, you know, with Iranian leaders next week. What do you anticipate coming out of those talks, or what will be discussed?
I will say, I think Donald Trump will be frustrated because I think the pattern for every Iranian leader since 1979 has been anytime we meet the West and the United States, we drag out the negotiations. We believe that, I will say, I think Donald Trump will be frustrated because I think we have a religious duty to
Experience for avid collectors, first-time buyers, and enthusiasts of all ages. There's something for everyone. Become a bidder and get ready to bring home your dream car. Registration and tickets are available at Mecum.com. That's Mecum.com.
We know that most people who live in Iran
Want Ozempic but can't afford thousands a month? You need Wegovy for $399 all in. No hidden fees. The only FDA-approved GLP-1 for weight loss at the lowest price yet. Save hundreds on authentic,
and is it working?
I don't think it is, except for the hardliners who actually believe that they have the religious duty to destroy these two Satans. Just so you know, the Ayatollah has carried out more executions this year so far, the 6 months of the
And Brian Mast, who is the chair of one of our most important committees, our Foreign Affairs Committee. And if you want to have a few questions, I'm sure we can answer those.
You call this a major setback for Iran's nuclear capabilities. Do you have a sense on how much uranium may have survived or how much was destroyed? What are you learning about that?
We have a sense about that. Some of this is classified, but I will tell you that there was a CIA press release, I think that went out yesterday, and they concluded that, Iran, this is a quote, Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged, unquote. I'll put that in layman's terms. I would say it's a substantial setback, and that was a first-hand, authoritative, and reliable account. That differs greatly from the low-confidence preliminary assessment that was leaked, sadly and dangerously, probably from this body, and we're going to get down to the bottom of that. But you can dismiss the low-level initial assessment, and you can rely upon what the CIA has said, because these are first-hand accounts. It is clear, everyone can see by the videos, that these massive ordnance penetrating bombs did the job. And I think their key facilities have been disabled, and I think Iran is now a long time away from doing what they might have done before this very successful operation.
Did they rule out the potential for any restrikes?
I'm not sure how much of that's classified, and I shouldn't be getting into that today. But we are very encouraged about the situation and where it stands. We're very encouraged. I think the greatest evidence that we have of the effectiveness of this mission was that Iran came immediately and was willing to engage in a ceasefire agreement. That would have been unthinkable just a few weeks back. So it's a very good thing for the whole world.
Do you believe that the president needs to strike a deal with Iran and have something in writing moving forward?
Well, look, I think that's the next logical step. I mean, we will do what is necessary to maintain the peace, but it is in Iran's interest and, of course, in the world's interest for them to come to the table in good faith and make an agreement. That would be good for the entire region. We have peace in the Middle East, and that is a big step towards peace around the globe. So.
Thank you all. Has the Senate, have you talked to the Senate yet on when they will hold their vote and when the House will get a chance?
I was in the Oval Office with Leader Thune as recently as early evening yesterday with the president. We had a long discussion about this and where where the bill stands in its status, and we are very, very close. And Leader Thune has confidence that they could get the job done by this weekend, and we certainly are hopeful for that. We would still like to meet that July 4th self-imposed deadline, and the President likes that idea. I certainly like that idea, and so does Leader Thune. So we're in a wait-and-see posture in the House right here, and we'll see what happens. So we're ready to act.
Okay. Thanks. All right, you do have House Speaker Mike Johnson right there making comments after that meeting that did take place, a classified one behind closed doors, all related to those U.S. strikes that took place last weekend on Iran's nuclear facilities. Also want to pop this up on your screen to remind you that we are awaiting a news conference here with folks with the U.S. Senate. Not clear if we will have Democrats and Republicans or just one. Either way, we'll bring you those comments in full right here on Live Now. And I can imagine this is all related to the big, beautiful bill that you heard House Speaker Mike Johnson talking a little bit about right there. I do want to take you to some breaking news that we are following right now at this hour. Take a look at this post just coming in here on Truth Social from President Trump. As President Trump does say he's immediately suspending trade talks with Canada over its plan to continue with its tax on technology firms, which he called, quote, a direct and blatant attack on our country. I do want to read this for you in full. As he said, we have just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Based on this tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the U.S. within the next 7 days. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Again, this was posted by President Trump on Truth Social a short time ago. The digital services tax applies to Canadian and foreign businesses that engage with online users in Canada. It will apply to companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, Uber, and Airbnb with a 3% levy on revenue from Canadian users. It will also apply retroactively, leaving U.S. companies with a $2 billion bill due at the end of the month. Again, Trump there in a post on Truth Social saying that the Canadians had just informed the U.S. that it was sticking to its plan to impose the tax set to take effect on Monday. We'll keep you updated here as we get developments on this. But again, this is a big situation here as President Trump says he has terminated all trade talks with Canada over the tax on tech firms. We're going to head to a quick break here. 2:28 on the East Coast, 11:28 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and we will be right back. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 2:31 on the East Coast, 11:31 on the West Coast. You are taking a live look at one of our many cameras there over in Washington, D.C., as I want to pump up a different one for you here. We are awaiting the Senate to make some comments here. The podium is set up and ready to go with the seal right there in the middle. Not sure if we are going to hear from Republican senators and Democrat senators, but whoever we hear from, whoever walks up, we'll bring you those comments in full, as we always do here on Live Now from Fox. Now, right before the break, we were talking about the posts on Truth Social from President Donald Trump. We did just get another one that says, quote, after many years of decline in our air traffic control system, the One Big Beautiful bill will modernize this relic and give America the best, most advanced air traffic control on Earth. The best by far. He did post a video with it here, so I want to play that for you on Live Now from Fox.
Many years of decline in our air traffic control system. The One Big Beautiful bill will modernize this decrepit relic and give America the best, most advanced air traffic control system on Earth, the best by far. It contains a historic program to update antiquated communications and radar systems, deteriorating hardware, and ancient software. This is really old stuff. It's ancient, with the latest 21st century tools and equipment. It will improve runway safety and build new air traffic control centers for the first time in more than 50 years and keep America flying safely and efficiently for decades to come. Many, many decades are going to go by before this one gets obsolete. It's the best in the world. It's time to pass the One Big Beautiful bill into law. We're going to get it done. We're going to take care of air traffic control. Thank you very much.
All right, that video there posted by President Donald Trump on his Truth Social just minutes ago. And there was also this message right here that I want to read for you. He said, the great Republicans in the U.S. Senate are working all weekend to finish our One Big Beautiful bill. We are on the precipice of delivering massive general tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors, permanently securing our borders, and even bigger and more powerful military. And then he says there, I rebuilt it during my first term, and it is already the best, but we will make it better. Unleashing our American economy, dominating the energy market, creating jobs, and getting money back to the American families. The House of Representatives must be ready to send it to my desk before July 4th. We can get it done. It will be a wonderful celebration for our country, which is right now, quote, the hottest country anywhere in the world. And to think just last year we were a laughingstock. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Again, a lot of posts coming in on Truth Social right now within the last hour or so from President Donald Trump, as we did also learn that he said he is immediately suspending trade talks with Canada over its plans to continue with a tax on technology firms, which he called, quote, a direct and blatant attack on our country. As we get more of these posts coming in from President Trump, we'll bring those to you right here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, we are taking a look once again over at the briefing room here for the U.S. Senate, as we expect to hear from them in just a matter of moments. Again, not clear if we're going to hear from both Republicans and Democrats, but when we see someone walk up to that podium, we will make sure to bring you those comments, as we always do, in full. For now, I do want to head back to the House. That is where earlier on today, they did receive that intel briefing behind closed doors. It was classified information, as they received some information there about the U.S. strikes on Iran that happened over the weekend. We heard right before the break from House Speaker Mike Johnson, but other lawmakers also shared thoughts with reporters. So let's lift up the audio here and listen in.
Pointed that we learned very little about the inventory of high enriched uranium, 60% enriched uranium, and its whereabouts, and what that meant for the breakout time to Iran's first nuclear device. There is, I think, frankly, very over-optimistic portrayal of what was and was not accomplished by this mission, because we do not have understanding and control of where all of that material is. I remind everyone that the 60% enriched material, while not weapons grade, is weapons usable. The Hiroshima device used a mixture of 50% and higher enriched uranium and worked pretty well. And it is well known by thousands of physicists around the world. The physics of a simple gun-type device, almost all of the components there require no special nuclear materials. The conversion of the 60% enriched materials, first to green salt and then to metal, casting it into parts, is all documented on the Wikipedia pages of Little Boy. If you look up that article, you will see, unfortunately, just how straightforward it is to make such a device. And I was disappointed that we did not see that the goal of this mission from the start was to secure or destroy that material. That's where they're hiding the ball, and that's what we have to keep our eyes on.
The president says it's all beneath all this rubble. Would you expect to see radiation levels or something like that if this had been damaged or destroyed?
Not necessarily. For technical reasons that I can't talk about. But if you have to understand that this inventory, we're talking about 20 or 30 scuba tanks full of material, where any 2 or so of those scuba tanks provide enough material for a first nuclear weapon. That is what we're trying to understand, where the location is and the disposition of in a situation where the intelligence may or may not be complete.
When the president says it's very difficult to move that stuff, do you buy that, or do you think that those are the type of tanks that could have been moved out?
To the extent that he was listening to competent technical people when he made that statement, he must have been referring to things like centrifuges and other infrastructure. The UF-6, as conventionally transported, is in cylinders that you can see exactly what they look like on the web and are not hard to transport through a number of means.
They're safe to transport?
Yes.
If there's not certainty that uranium was destroyed, are you worried that there will be additional strikes in order to complete the mission?
If we can somehow guarantee that we have secured or destroyed that material, the world will be a safer place. If that is not what has in fact been accomplished here, we are not safer. In terms of a first Iranian nuclear device.
In that case, would you support additional strikes to get rid of it?
I'm not going to talk policy here. I'm talking about what's known from the physics involved and what the capabilities are, given the inventories of different kinds of uranium.
What about the centrifuges and other infrastructure in Fordo and these other facilities? Is it credible that that was destroyed? Or
very credible. No, very credible that those capabilities have been degraded substantially, and I believe that. The centrifuges and other processing is irrelevant if you have a large inventory of 60% enriched uranium. That's point one. You can make a higher performance nuclear weapon with 90% enriched uranium, but that doesn't have to be the game that Iran's involved in.
Did the briefers try to make the case that it was still there to you guys?
Don't want to talk about that.
What's your level of concern about the potential, not necessarily of a thermonuclear device, but of a dirty bomb possibly going off on a U.S. base or Israel?
The dirty bomb is normally talked about. I'm talking about a Hiroshima-style gun type, straightforward, a yield in the tens of kilotons nuclear device.
When you say that material should be destroyed, how does one destroy that material?
You can disperse it enough that it's unusable. UF-6 is very reactive. If you just let it loose in a cave, it will find something to bind up with. And so, it's possible to recover it with a very extensive effort, but that would be a different ball game than just, getting your hands on a couple cylinders of the pressurized UF-6.
What do you believe needs to happen next for this?
I think that we have to understand the leverage that the Iranians and the free world have, and to engage in serious negotiations with the Iranians about putting a permanent lid on their nuclear program, starting with getting IAEA surveillance on our entire inventory of 60% enriched uranium.
You talked at the outset about how this wouldn't have happened if the JCPOA hadn't fallen apart.
Yeah, I think frankly that the game was lost when President Trump withdrew from the JCPOA. Under the JCPOA, we had very strict limits and enforced limits on their inventory of enriched uranium at different levels. And when that was lost, the game was lost, and now we're in a situation where they have very large inventories of quite significantly enriched uranium, and unfortunately that implies a very small breakout time to a first nuclear device. Under the JCPOA, I spent many hours in the SCIF looking at different breakout scenarios. The fundamental representation there was that there was a one-year breakout time. If the Iranians kicked the inspectors out with the equipment that they were allowed to have, it would still take them a year. Okay, and now we're in a situation where it's days. All right, it was days prior to the strike, but they nonetheless have already used that equipment to make a very large inventory of 60% enriched uranium, and that's the situation we're in.
So if the uranium was not destroyed, they still have that capability to break out a bomb in a few days?
In a very brief period of time.
What's your level of concern about that?
Enormous.
What's a very short level of concern?
It depends on how much work they've already done. If you look at what was done to build the Hiroshima, the little boy bomb, almost all of it could be done in a small artillery shop. And there are a lot of that kind of capability all around Iran, and you don't need bomb physicists at this point, you need engineers. You need machinists, you need technicians. The physics is known.
What did you make when Israel targeted all those nuclear scientists and all that?
That was important. That had a large impact on their capability going forward. Not so much on the breakout time. All right.
I really appreciate your insight.
Thank you. Let's see, if you need to contact my press, it's grace.bouton at mail.house.gov. Congressman Bill Foster, the PhD physicist in this joint.
And informed in what we heard today. It's really important that the United States Congress is the body that authorizes offensive military action and has matters over war. There's no doubt that the president has self-defense authority, but that threshold, in my mind, has not been met. Right? There has to be an imminent risk against U.S. persons and U.S. facilities in order for the president to do this without congressional authorization. And what was briefed to Congress today is massively different than what has been told to Congress over the last year, up until a month ago, about both Iranian capabilities and Iranian intent.
Are you convinced that Iran's nuclear facilities have been completely destroyed, obliterated, whatever the administration is using?
No, I'm not convinced of that whatsoever. Numerous words have been used. In fact, they said, pick your adjective. Well, adjectives and words actually matter. They have different meanings, and they mean vastly different things, and they have not actually settled on a definition in what they claim the results of the strike were. So we'd like to see that. We've been told that there are still additional reports that have not been provided to Congress. So show the report. With a real battle damage assessment, please stand up so we can make that assessment and see what the results were. But I just want to underscore the fact that military success, even if it happened, does not make it okay for them to violate the Constitution and not seek congressional authorization. And the reason is some missions are successful and some are not. But it's the United States Congress that has the authority to determine when to take offensive military action, not the president.
What about the topic of the DNI leak? Did that come up at all? And some people have insinuated that it could have came from Congress. What's your reaction?
I have no information about where it would have come from. I think that's massive conjecture that it came from Congress. It very well may have, but there's been bipartisan and resounding condemnation of that. Any leak is unacceptable. Whether it's President Trump keeping classified documents in his bathroom, or Secretary Hegseth putting classified operational war plans on Signal. It's never okay, and certainly not in this instance either.
All right, there you have it. Some comments from Democratic lawmakers there. We heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson a bit earlier on in the hour, but wanted to play those out as we did get that reaction coming in from both sides of the aisle. We have learned right here, as we're keeping an eye on this live look over in D.C., the final preps underway here. We are expecting to get a news conference with Senator Chuck Schumer. That should be starting here in just a matter of moments, so we'll bring it to you, as we always do, in full here on Live Now.
They may have an insurance plan that could lower your yearly premiums by hundreds of dollars.
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
Come on, call now.
You may be able to save a lot of money, maybe hundreds of dollars a year. Just call the number on your screen and speak with a licensed insurance agent.
Yes, it is possible for seniors to save on car insurance. You could lower your premiums by hundreds of dollars a year.
As a responsible driver, you always check your gauges, right? And you check for other cars and pedestrians. You check your oil and you check your mirrors.
Well, now is the time to check on your auto insurance rates. You need to make sure that you're not paying more than you need to. Call the number on your screen right now.
1-800-260-8413. 1-800-260-8413.
I was exhausted all the time, and I just didn't feel like myself. And then came the weight gain. I found out I was like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland wasn't functioning like it was supposed to. And that's why I started taking Actilin, a premium nutritional supplement. Actilin was created by renowned physician Dr. David Brownstein, formulated with 17 powerful ingredients to specifically support your thyroid function, adrenal health, and metabolism. And now you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. Just pay a small shipping and handling charge. Plus, receive Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. If you're experiencing loss of energy, cold hands and feet, dry skin, weight gain, or joint pain, Actilin may be right for you. Don't wait. Act now. Get your free trial bottle of Actilin, valued at $39.95.
Gas prices are appearing to remain stable, the cost averaging approximately $3.20 per gallon. It was $3.09 for me this morning, Bob.
Yeah, I've had a
The
few
lowest they've
places under $3, mostly in the low 30s. New York Times reporting summer gas prices haven't been this low since 2021. Of course, that was the pandemic, so that was kind of an asterisk time. They write, the national average price of gasoline has hovered around $3.20 a gallon this week after Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire in the conflict that drew in the United States. The last time fuel costs were reported lower was in June of 2021. This was during the pandemic when the demand decreased.
With the July 4th holiday coming up, AAA anticipates a surge in demand, which could have an effect on prices to rise.
Yeah, well, they factor that in. I mean, they're producing a lot of oil, and a lot of the places that they are producing it, they're producing more. Now, you know, when Trump talks about bringing down oil prices, keep in mind there are only so many oil companies, and they don't want it to go too low. And because they want to make money, and so if it goes down, like it's been down into, did it get to the high 50s? It was like down around $60 a barrel. It's around 70. There was a bounce a little bit with what's going on over the Middle East. Well, I mean,
if they get low enough, I don't know what the hit price is, but I know the White House has been wanting to restock the strategic oil.
Yeah, so far they say they're
supply.
Not going to right now.
Yes,
maybe it'll go lower.
but if prices keep decreasing, that'd be a good thing to do there. But it's also going to make my drive to upstate New York tomorrow morning
a little cheaper.
A little cheaper. All right, the Supreme Court delivering a big win for parents today.
Yeah, in a 6-3 decision, the justice is deciding Maryland parents can opt their kids out of lessons with LGBTQ themes if they feel the material conflicts with their faith. Joining us right now, author of the brand new book, Rising Above, Empowering Stories of Women Overcoming Adversity. President and CEO of Allison May Public Relations and Media Relations expert, Allison Maloney, my former co-anchor when we started together over 5 years ago, Allie. Yeah. It's always a pleasure to talk to you on and off the air, and it's great to have you here.
Great to be with both of you.
So I guess we could start. We'll talk about your book. But very quickly, give us your thoughts. You're a mom. They're not saying if you want to teach LGBTQ themes or whatever, okay. But parents get a word into whether their kids take part.
Yeah, that's nice that parents get a word in what their kids are learning. And the moment that came down, I'm on a group chat with all of my mom friends, and they all immediately said, this is good news. This is exactly what we want to see happen in the schools. And you know, to your point, Bob, this is essentially just saying parents, if they don't want their kids, to be in the classroom at that time, they can pull them out. I mean, the Maryland parents were saying that elementary kids, students were reading books about transitioning and about playground romances, and that's not something that a lot of parents want their kids learning about at the elementary school age. If parents want to talk about it at home, that's fine, but this, if parents feel uncomfortable with their kids learning this, they don't have to.
This was one of the only Supreme Court judgments that came out in color. They included the copies of the books in their judgment because they wanted readers to know specifically what they were referencing, because some of these books are absolutely egregious. I wouldn't want my sons reading them, let alone a teacher reading them in front of a class and then having the inability to opt out of this.
And that should be your decision.
That should absolutely be my decision as a mother. So, Allison, I agree with you 1,000%. Could you tell us a little bit about your book, Women Overcoming Adversity, and why you decided to write it and highlight the stories that you did?
Sure. The book it features 10 women and their stories, and these women have gone through, Kelly, the unimaginable. We're talking trauma, grief, loss, addiction. And for so long, I think that women have felt that they were, they didn't want to share their story because they felt they'd be judged, especially on social media, or even if they wrote a blog about it. Maybe their employer would think that they're, not stable, or maybe they would appear as weak. But there's been a shift that I've seen in social media. CEOs, entrepreneurs, actresses, people are coming out and they're sharing their story. But not only that, but they're being more authentic. Life is messy and things happen to all of us. And these women in my book have been through the unimaginable, have come out the other side. And not only have they survived, but now they're making a difference. They're helping other people across the country, whether it's through books, podcasts, speaking, programs they have in schools. And these women, they could have just sat down and, buried their head in the sand, but instead they've risen above and they're making a huge difference.
And Allie, your own personal story, you have a social media presence in which recount it to us, if you will, in which you reach that realization is, you know what, maybe life isn't perfect and maybe I shouldn't make it sound like everything is.
Yeah, I think we're done with seeing perfection on social media. And I was reluctant. I'm pretty much an open book. If you follow me on social media, I talk a lot about being a mom and working and that balance or lack thereof. And there are things that I haven't been open about. But after interviewing these 9 other women and the fact that they're brave enough to share their story, I figured I would share the rest of my story, these things I have not spoken about publicly. And it's in my chapter. And I want to give credit to Newsmax, because I wouldn't have gone through my healing journey and been where I am if it wasn't for Newsmax. And there is a certain host on Newsmax who is in the chapter. His name may be Bob. And they're all great stories about you, how we started working together and how you mentored me. I remember writing down paragraphs trying to prep. And you said, Allie, stop. You know the story. Stop. You're stressing yourself out. So it's a good journey. But,
sound familiar?
Life is not perfect.
No.
Allison, what is the response? What has been the response? Because I think a lot of us feel like we have to curate a perfect image online that might not necessarily be the messy truth, and that's scary, putting that out there. What has the reception been for you?
Sure. The people who have read it early have said, oh my gosh, this is so good, because I thought I was the only one who was going through this particular situation. And it's so nice to hear, you know, women of power. I mean, there's entrepreneurs, there's actresses in here, there's moms, there's all different types of women from different areas that have gone through things. So it's kind of a breath of fresh air. And not only do they share their story, but they give resources. So if somebody's going through a certain situation, there's help for them, there's advice, there's podcasts, there's books that they've read. So far, everyone has liked it who's read it early. It officially comes out tomorrow. So we'll see what the rest of the response is. I'm just hoping if this can help one person, then I'm going to be extremely happy.
Well, I'm sure it'll be more than that. And Allie, congratulations on the book. Folks, go looking for it, because I'm sure it'll be worth it. And Allie, every minute of working with you was a pleasure. And I'm happy to see your success. Even though you're talking about when things aren't perfect, this seems like a perfect book for a lot of people.
Thank you so much. It's great to see both of you.
Thank you. Our live coverage continues next on National Desk, so keep it right here on N2. We'll be right back.
He tells it like it is.
State of Survival has prepared an amazing treehouse shelter for you, where even in an apocalypse, you can have a vacation vibe. We've got a spacious ranch in the park, home to dairy cows, ensuring fresh milk for you every single day. The vineyard next door, thanks to the pleasant climate, gives you fresh and tasty grapes all year round. And don't get me started on our cave bedrooms. Cozy in winter, cool in summer, fully equipped for all your needs, ready for you to enjoy some countryside charm anytime. No worries about food either. Our stockpile of rice, wheat and raisins will keep you fed for 5 years, no sweat. Every 10 kilometers, we've set up a rest stop, making it easy for you to go exploring. So go ahead and fully embrace this brand new end-of-the-world experience.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Just call 800-461-9848.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Just call 800-461-9848. That's 800-461-9848.
No matter what you drive, there's only one guarantee. It's gonna break down.
I had a sensor light up on my dashboard.
There was a popping noise.
The last thing I remember is just the engine cut out.
Your next breakdown could be anytime, anywhere, whether you've got the money to fix it or not.
It was a thermostat, $2,600.
Seat sensor, $1,400.
But if you've got endurance, you could never pay out of pocket for a car repair again, no matter how much it cost them to cover it.
In my first year with Endurance, they covered a $14,000 engine replacement.
It was like almost a $6,000 job. If I didn't have Endurance, I would have had to pay for that or just trash the whole car and start again.
If your car's out of warranty, a transmission can easily cost you $4,000.
And an engine? Over $7,000, if you're lucky.
With Endurance, those parts are covered.
The bad camera unit, $800 to repair a bad wheel bearing, over $1,000. A new steering rack, close to $3,000. Endurance covered it fully.
Plus, you pick the mechanic you trust to do the work.
It's a totally seamless process going to any certified mechanic. They submit the claim directly to Endurance. They get paid, and I'm out the door.
You trust us to do the work, and we trust Endurance to pay us direct.
And the best part, your rate stays locked in no matter how many claims you file.
If your car's under 20 years old, Endurance has you covered with unlimited miles. Plus, your plan includes 24/7 roadside assistance anywhere in the country.
So, who's gonna pay for your next breakdown? You?
Or Endurance.
Right now, you can get $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits, a $2,000 value free. all backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. But you have to act now. Visit EnduranceWarranty.com or
call 1-833-496-4951 for a free quote. That's 1-833-496-4951.
Welcome back to National Desk on N2. I'm Kelly Sadler.
And I'm Bob Sellers. Thank you for joining us. A short time from now, by the way, the White House, we're expecting a live appearance from President Trump. He's participating in a visit with foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda as the two African nations sign a peace deal. This follows a major decision from the Supreme Court today, handing President Trump a big win on executive power. Now, this would apply for any executive, right? So you could read this as a good or bad, but in the past, there have been a lot of complaints. For instance, that when President Biden put something out, he complained when a district judge was able to stop what he wanted to do. And President Trump, the same has been his experience. The High Court ruling that district judges do not have the authority to issue nationwide injunctions to block the president's executive orders. President Trump calling the ruling a monumental victory for the Constitution. By the way, that shot we're pulling back into the, which church was that? I forget the name of it, right across the street from the
White House?
Right, yeah, right near the Hay Adams.
This was a major win for the administration.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and as soon as as soon as it was dropped, they scrambled to put together a press conference of which Pam Bondi attended, as well as the President of the United States. That went on for an hour, and the President took a bunch of questions, but clearly is very excited he can move forward with his agenda, one that he overwhelmingly won the presidency on. But let's go now live to White House correspondent Mike Carter with the very latest from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Mike, what's cooking?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Well, the Supreme Court today issuing a huge ruling in favor of the Trump administration, deciding that a single judge cannot block a presidential order from taking effect nationwide. On his first day in office back in January, President Trump issued an executive order stating the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. The High Court, however, today saying it was not deciding whether Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship was constitutional, rather than focusing on whether a single judge has the authority to issue universal injunctions. In a 6-3 vote today, along ideological lines, the court granting a request by the Trump administration to narrow the scope of nationwide injunctions imposed by judges so that they apply only to states, groups, and individuals that have sued the administration. That means the birthright citizenship proposal can likely still move forward at least in part in the states that challenged it, as well as those that did not. In a majority opinion today, Amy Coney Barrett, justice, writing, when a court concludes that the executive branch has acted unlawfully, the answer is not for the court to exceed its power to. Justice Amy Coney Barrett going on to write that she indicated that the nationwide injunctions are limited only to the extent that the injunctions are broader than necessary. Here's the president this afternoon.
This is really also a decision based on common sense. It didn't work the other way. It was a disaster where somebody from a certain location in a very liberal state or a liberal judge or a liberal group of judges could tie up a whole country for years.
A giant win in the United States Supreme Court, says President Trump. Even the birthright citizenship hoax has been indirectly hit hard. It had to do with the babies of slaves same year, not the scamming of our immigration process. Congratulations to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Solicitor General John Sauer, and the entire DOJ. Well, there have been roughly 40 different court injunctions so far this year against the Trump administration. Attorney General Bondi saying today that 35 of those 40 are coming from just 5 districts across the country, of which there's 94 of them.
Let me reiterate, of the 35 of the 40 nationwide injunctions filed against this president, against his executive authority as President of the United States, 35 of them came from Maryland, D.C., Massachusetts, California, Washington. I mean, that's crazy. These 5 districts.
And today's Supreme Court ruling doesn't go into effect for another 30 days. Pam Bondi saying the administration will respect that and not enforce any of the injunctions that have currently are on the books. Bondi also saying that birthright citizenship, the Supreme Court, remember, didn't rule on that case in particular today, or at least ruling on the constitutionality of it. She said that will likely be decided in the fall when the Supreme Court comes back from recess in October. Also, President Trump right now meeting with the foreign ministers of the Congo and Rwanda. Earlier today, Marco Rubio signing a historic peace agreement between the two nations, and President Trump likely to talk about that agreement now. Guys?
All right, Mike Carter, thank you.
You know, I think if obviously I'm not a lawyer, but in following these cases, what came out today with the district court rulings, essentially, the judge shopping will be less successful. And both parties have done it in the past. And so you're not going to be able to tie up an issue just by saying, okay, we're going to go find a judge that we know is going to be sympathetic to our argument, who could then stop the administration. Now, that could happen in the future if there's a Democrat, whatever, and we don't know how the birthright citizenship issue will be played out over time anyway.
Well, it just has to work its way through the court system.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what the 14th Amendment, the case, is doing right now.
Yeah.
So who knows, that will be probably decided by the Supreme Court next session.
Probably will, and that'll be an interesting argument.
Which will be a very, very interesting argument.
Because there are people, okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there are people come here to have anchor babies.
Absolutely. It's a whole tourism industry.
Yeah.
And the president clearly believes the 14th Amendment was intended for immigrants and slaves, and that was it.
Yeah, even though the rulings subsequent to that.
At the time, yes.
And the rulings subsequent to that have still upheld it. But there are a lot of people who feel that should change anyway. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to this, though. Despite Donnie's declaring victory in the New York mayoral Democratic primary, former governor of the state, Andrew Cuomo, even though initial reports that he may be backing down from running in the November election, that might not be the case.
Might be running as an independent. All right. Correspondent Sarah Williamson is live in New York with more on the new developments in the mayoral race. Sarah.
Hey, Kelly. Hey, Bob. Look, this is something that we have been questioning basically since Mamdani won. Will he stay? Will he drop out? But a new poll has come out which suggests that if the general election was to happen today, Mamdani and Cuomo would be in a dead heat. But the problem is, although this poll was conducted independently, this pollster has been working for Cuomo since the beginning and is aligned with him. And as history shows, his polls haven't exactly always been correct.
It's kind of like a childish rhyme. If at first you don't succeed, try again. The problem is the people who did the poll the last time had it wrong, so why should we trust that they've not got it wrong this time? Or maybe the more cynical would argue that this is a cash grab to get money out of the taxpayers who publicly fund campaigns in New York City.
The pollster is aligned with Andrew Cuomo and was releasing polls all throughout the election, usually sponsored or connected to Cuomo's super PAC, that suggested Cuomo in a much stronger position than what he wound up being in this election.
Now, conducted over the 2 days following Cuomo's defeat by Zoran Mamdani in the first round of ranked choice voting, polling firm Honan Strategy spoke to 817 likely general election voters who were reached by text message and then filled out a poll through the link online. It found that Mamdani and Cuomo both nabbed 39% of the vote, with incumbent Mayor Eric Adams receiving 13%, Republican Curtis Sliwa with 7% and 2% undecided. Now, in the scenario that Cuomo does not appear on the ballot, Honan poll finds that Mamdani leads Adams by 15 points. But if Adams were to drop out, Cuomo appears to pick up the support of likely Adams voters and gains a slight edge, leading Mamdani by 4 points. Now, both Democratic strategists that I spoke to admitted that all of these candidates do have their flaws. But they say that most moderate Democrats and people to the right will vote for anyone who is not Mamdani. Now, which one of these candidates has the best choice is still up for debate, but it's mostly particular between Cuomo and Mayor Eric Adams. Which one of those has a better choice? We still don't know. Listen.
Many people in the business community are saying, you know what, Eric Adams has his problems, but we're so scared of Zohran Mamdani that we're going to go back to Eric Adams because Eric Adams is the incumbent mayor of New York. And between Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, only one of them has ever won a mayoral election in New York City. And it was Eric Adams, and he did it just 4 years ago.
Anything can happen here. Can a 33-year-old win a Democratic primary against a governor for 3 terms? You bet. It happened. Can Mamdani be elected mayor? Why not? Can Andrew Cuomo win? Possible. Could Eric Adams be reelected? It's not impossible either. Anything can happen here in the exciting game without any rules. Because why? Because that's the way it's turning out.
Now, if we will find out whether or not he is actually running, we're going to have to wait till July the 1st for that, because that is when the Democratic primaries officially closes and gathers all of its numbers. But if one of them, whether it be Adams or Cuomo, were to beat Mamdani, that's likely not going to be possible unless the other one drops out. Back to you guys.
All right, Sarah Williamson, thank you.
Okay. I used to work in New York. For more than just Newsmax, but New Yorkers love to talk about New York as if the whole world cares. And the whole world does not care about New York. However, the political game going on there right now.
We've got great news for seniors. The Social Security Administration has made a small burial fund available to every senior citizen who qualifies. But it's not enough. So the state has approved an affordable burial program that could pay the entire cost that Social Security doesn't cover. Don't wait. If you qualify, this program would pay 100% of your funeral and final expenses up to $30,000. We are helping seniors qualify for this program right now. To learn more about how this program works and how easy it is to qualify for this coverage, click the button below now.
Who are driving this change, and they're so angry with the Chuck Schumers, with the Nancy Pelosi's, with Joe Biden. And maybe this started with Joe Biden because he was supposed to be a one-term president that was going to pass the torch to the younger generation. He decided to run for re-election again and lost everything for the Democrats. So it's what direction does the Democrat Party go in? Do they moderate or they go wildly progressive and socialist? They're going in the socialist direction. If you look at Brendan Johnson in Chicago, he was
Here to relax, I had to do more thinking here than I did in school. Right. Said hope I did for Bobby. At Velociraptor 415. Said makes sense truck car. Good idea, thanks. At Kevmax63. Said get Google Drive. At Supertruck R9. Said YW.
Yeah, but who wants to pay for the Google Drive?
Said move to Google Drive. At Kevmax63. Said and it will be on the cloud.
Yeah.
At Velociraptor
what do they do with it once it gets to the cloud?
Said Kev and maxed out Google Drive. At Kevmax63. Said make another account. At Velociraptor 415. Said LOL Kev, I have 4 accounts. At Douglaser 8 CK Sun 25. Said you have to wait 14 days to recharge your handle, dang it.
Yeah.
At Kevmat63. Said have 5 LOL. At Douglaser 8 CK Sun 25. Said rechange. At Velociraptor 415. Said LOL Kev.
Democratic Party, what they need to do is what Kelly just said that President Trump did in the 2024 election. He expanded the playing field. He expanded his base. He went after Latinos. He went after African Americans. Unfortunately, what you're seeing in New York, part of what you're seeing in New York, also part of what you're seeing in New York is that you have two candidates in the current mayor and in Andrew Cuomo that have more baggage than my last flight to Orlando on Delta. So that's part of it. I think there were a large chunk of votes for Mamdani that was just, okay, he's just the other guy. He is not Cuomo, who has his own fair share of baggage. He is not Adams, who's, maybe wearing an orange jumpsuit. We don't know. And I think that was a large chunk of his votes, but also those progressive votes. And instead of looking in the mirror as a party and saying, okay, we got beat with working class voters, we need to go talk about their issues. Instead, they're doubling down. We are going to stay in our echo chamber. We are just going to talk to and listen to people who think like us, look like us, and want to do things just like us. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to go out to the Fresnos, the Modestos, the Stocktons, the Brooklyns, the Western Pennsylvanias of the world, the Southeast Ohios of the world. We're going to go talk to those people. We're going to see why they voted Republican. We're going to talk about the issues that affect them on a daily basis. Not this identity politics, not this, what is George Clooney talking about on Entertainment Tonight, not those issues, actual pocketbook issues. Can I keep a roof over my head? Can I buy groceries? What's gas going to cost me tomorrow? That's the issues they need to be talking about to expand the playing field, not staying insular and talking about things that they're comfortable with. They got to get, in a long story short, my party needs to get uncomfortable. They need to have uncomfortable conversations. They need to go talk to other people and feel uncomfortable while they're having those conversations.
Carrie, the list of things that Mamdani supports is frightening. One of the things is he wants to tax white neighborhoods, so reverse discrimination, because white people make more than minorities. That is also discriminatory. He has talked about globalizing the intifada. He said that if Bibi Netanyahu were to come to New York City, he would have him arrested per the ICC court. He wants to set up state-run grocery stores that will be at cost, that will likely decimate your mom-and-pop shops. He says that he is not for capitalism. He doesn't believe in capitalism. Carrie, how can somebody like this win an election?
Well, let's be clear. He won a small subset of a primary, and he won a wealthy subset. That's what I think is so interesting here. When you look at the exit polling, Mamdani won double digits among people making $100,000 or more, as well as $50,000 or more. But among people 50,000 and below, double digits, he lost. He lost to Cuomo, and that's what's so telling here is that Mamdani claims to speak for the privileged, but in actuality he speaks for the underprivileged, when in actuality he speaks for the privileged. His concepts are trying to pull at the heartstrings of New Yorkers, but when you actually look at, New York City's put out data about the demographics of immigrants in New York, and I lived in New York City for 10 years, and I've seen the decline of the city with de Blasio as the precursor to this, because de Blasio embraced a lot of the socialist policies that Mamdani is now, passing the torch, picking it up. But immigrants in New York City are, on average, a lot poorer than people who are not immigrants in New York City. And so when you do the math, you actually see that Mamdani, who loves to talk about being an immigrant, his family's from Uganda, he came to the U.S. when he was 7, New York immigrants are actually rejecting Mamdani, even though he loves to wear that mantle and loves to claim that he cares for poor people and he cares for immigrants. The immigrants of New York City do not agree. They've come from a lot of other countries that are socialist. They hear the siren songs, everything that you laid out, Kelly, all of the quote unquote free things, they are not free. These are paid for by on the backs of taxpayers. Every taxpayer pays for these things. Nothing is free. And you're talking about sales tax, you're talking about personal income tax in New York. And so it's being on the backs of the poor to pay for his grocery list of things that are, going to put the city bankrupt. And that's what's so sad. I'm also a former Moody's bond analyst. And when you look at, he says he wants to put $70 billion in city debt. This is going to saddle the city up. It's going to make things more unlivable. And it's going to turn New York City into an East Coast version of San Francisco.
All right, Carrie Sheffield, Lee Nevis, thank you very much. Appreciate you being with us. Like Carrie was saying, the small number of people elected him. I think it was 400,000 voters. I think there are over 8.5 million people in the city. I think that may be registered voters. So you're talking about 5% of the people actually elected him. Now, you're never going to get 100% people voting, but now you have a situation in which Cuomo and Eric Adams cancel each other out. So the socialist is leading.
Well, I just don't understand. New York City has the second largest Israeli population outside of Israel.
Yes.
And I'm not sure how any of them could vote for Mamdani in good faith.
13% apparently did.
Yeah, after what he said. But I think New York is just waking up. This surprised New Yorkers.
So too.
I think a lot of them
but
sat
is it too
out.
Late?
Yeah, they sat out the primary thinking Cuomo has this, he'll surely win. Didn't go cast their vote. And Mamdani activated his base. He was very attuned social media-wise, would go door knocking,
Actually,
and pulled it off.
The weird thing is you see him talk to, he seems like a nice guy. And then when you hear what he says, it's like, oh, hold on a minute.
He's a wolf in sheep's clothing for sure.
Yeah, good to speak.
All right. Will Congress pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill by his July 4th deadline? We'll take you live to Capitol Hill for an update when we come right back.
Are you getting everything from Medicare you deserve? You need Medicare for You. It reveals how to maximize benefits while improving your health care. Medicare for You shows you how to reduce costs, improve coverage, get procedures approved, and avoid 4 big mistakes and scams. Make sure Medicare works for you. Get Medicare for You at bookstores or see the free offer. Go online now or call today. Your health is too important to wait.
Vehicle breakdowns are costly.
It started making some really weird noises.
If your check engine light comes on tomorrow, the repair could easily cost thousands.
Is that transmission?
But with Endurance, you could never pay out of pocket for a costly repair again.
They covered a $14,000 engine replacement.
$1,400. Endurance paid it.
Who's going to pay for your next car repair? You or Endurance?
Call right now to get $300 off any plan.
Have you been in a motor vehicle accident that wasn't your fault? Then you may need legal representation. And if you call the number on your screen now, you can be connected to an attorney who can tell you just how much your case could be worth for free. And for a limited time, if you call now, you can get this elegant, luxurious gold watch with the money from your own case. To be clear, not for me. This is my watch. I own it, and I like it a lot. You can't have it. But if you call and win your case and the money is right, you can buy one of these watches for yourself, or any of these watches, or a different watch I've never even seen before, or no watch. The money is yours to do whatever it is you want. Just call the number on your screen now to find out how much your case could be worth for free.
To get a windfall, you first need to call. Call your favorite attorney now.
Call 800-487-0943.
And you can't have my tie either.
If you could help reduce the urge to go to the bathroom due to your aging prostate, if you could improve your energy levels because you're getting a better night's sleep, would you? Of course you would. And now you can with the help of Prostate Revive, the premium dietary supplement for men whose lives, sleep, and energy levels are affected due to the concerns of an aging prostate. It was specially formulated for men by noted medical doctor, Dr. David Brownstein.
Prostate Revive is really about healthy aging. It contains a plant sterol called beta-sitosterol. Combined with 15 other important ingredients, Prostate Revive's exclusive formula helps promote normal prostate function. And that means you can reduce the urge to go and finally get a good night's sleep.
Here's how you can try Prostate Revive risk-free.
Simply call or visit our website now and we'll send every new customer a risk-free 30-day trial of Prostate Revive. You discover the low shipping and handling. This is a $39.95 value, so don't delay. Call or go online today.
That feels ominous, doesn't it?
That does.
Are they going to, or are they not going to pass the big, beautiful bill? Senators are set to spend the weekend in Washington as they race to pass the big, beautiful bill, as Donald Trump says.
Yeah, the president has said he wants it on his desk by the 4th of July. Remember, that's the target date. But today, Mr. Trump noted the deadline is important, but it's not the end all.
Right now, we're going to go to Capitol Hill with our congressional correspondent, Kilmeny Dukart. Kilmeny, what's the progress?
Yeah, Kelly, Bob, good to be with you. I'm glad we have some dramatic music to match this moment right now, because this is crunch time for the Senate. Of course, they're trying to rewrite a lot of components of this bill that do not meet the reconciliation standards. In other words, as is, it cannot pass with a simple majority. So a lot of what the Senate parliamentarian has flagged are actually key provisions of the president's bill that have to do with Medicaid. So let's take a look at some of those. It struck down a provision that would prevent illegal migrants from receiving Medicaid, another that would prevent Medicaid funding from being used for gender transition treatments for minors, and changes to the state provider caps. It also flagged increasing penalties for disclosing taxpayer information. But despite the snag, House Speaker Mike Johnson seemed optimistic that both chambers could work together to get it done.
I was in the Oval Office with Leader Thune as recently as early evening yesterday with the president. We had a long discussion about this and where the bill stands in its status, and we are very, very close. And Leader Thune has confidence that they could get the job done by this weekend.
Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been on Capitol Hill today meeting with Republican senators, trying to hash out some of these last-minute changes. That could include changes to the state and local tax deduction caps that could risk upsetting some House Republicans. Republican Congressman Chip Roy says SALT deductions allow blue states to export their political mistakes, electing high-tax crazy socialists Americans shouldn't subsidize. Well, the president, addressing possible resistance in the House, is now saying that he may want the House to pass this before that July 4th deadline. Take a listen.
Every Republican senator is committed. And, you know, you could have a couple of grandstanders, in all fairness. You could have somebody else. And it's very dangerous, because our country would go from being the most successful country in the world to who knows what happens with a 68%, think of it, 68% tax increase. That was given by the Democrats because they like high taxes. I don't know what happened.
Well, the White House clearly articulating what is at stake here. We expect President Trump to be part of these last-minute lobbying efforts to get outlying Republicans on board. And we're now hearing reports that the Senate is likely to take up its first procedural vote at midnight. Kelly, Bob?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kilmeny. And from your experience, that means some arm twisting, or
some arm twisting? I don't know. I heard that Speaker Johnson spoke to Leader Thune and said delay this vote for as long as possible so that we can get it passed out of the House and everyone can go to the 4th of July.
So
adding the pressure, adding the holiday pressure to it, to the members. I don't know. The bill doesn't seem to be in good shape, but I know that a lot of senators came out this morning and said we just need to force a vote. We need to force a vote to see to get people on record,
to find
see
out
what provisions are acceptable versus not acceptable.
Well, then that would make
to
some
move
sense,
things
right?
forward.
You get an initial vote, see where people stand, and then go back and do the hard work.
Should have been done already.
I'm just going to say the hard work they should have done. Yeah.
All right, don't go anywhere. There's still more to come on National Desk. We'll be right back.
Nothing is off limits to David Harris Jr., and there's no apologies, because he's armed with common sense, real faith, and the truth. Don't miss him on The Pulse tonight. Rick Leventhal reported on the biggest stories of our time. Now he's fighting to bring you the truth, no matter what it takes. Watch The Leventhal Report, weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax 2.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
Makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Call the number on your screen.
Call 800-316-6394.
Today's seniors are enjoying life more than ever before, and part of that comes from the independence of driving.
However, car insurance for older drivers becomes more expensive the older we get.
Just because I'm a senior, and maybe you are too, do we really have to pay outrageously high insurance rates? Well, the answer is no, we don't.
When was the last time you checked to make sure you're paying the lowest available rate? Well, maybe it's time to give your car insurance a tune-up, just to make sure your rates are running properly.
You change your oil, you change your tires. Well, maybe it's time to change your car's insurance company.
Are you paying too much for your auto insurance? If so, you're just throwing your money away.
So the only way to really know if you're paying too much is to call the number on your screen.
1-800-260-8413. 1-800-260-8413.
You'll speak with a licensed insurance agent. They may have an insurance plan that could lower your yearly premiums by hundreds of dollars.
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
So call right now and
$1 a year. Just call the number on your screen. $1 a year. Just call the number on your screen and speak with a licensed insurance agent.
Yes, it is possible for seniors to save on car insurance. You could lower your premiums by hundreds of dollars a year.
As a responsible driver, you always check your gauges, right? And you check for other cars and pedestrians. You check your oil and you check your mirrors.
Well, now is the time to check on your auto insurance rates. You need to make sure that you're not paying more than you need to. Call the number on your screen right now.
1-800-260-8413. 1-800-260-8413.
ICE bust, especially in a sanctuary jurisdiction like Fairfax County, Virginia, where local officials won't lift a finger to help get criminal illegals off the street.
Our crime correspondent, Jason Matera, was embedded with ICE yesterday during a takedown targeting a man accused of running a shady home renovation scam. The guy thought he was heading to work to potentially rip off more victims, but ICE had other plans. Here's the exclusive.
It's 4:30 a.m. in Fairfax County, Virginia, and the target, a UK national, Kevin Cash, accused of scamming families out of their hard-earned cash in bogus home construction deals, and doing it all while in the country illegally.
They entered the United States under the visa waiver program. They have overstayed beyond the time they were allowed to stay here, and they have not departed.
At the local ICE field office outside D.C., federal agents gear up, coordinated, precise, and laser-focused on busting this leader of an alleged crime ring operating right outside the nation's capital.
The briefing just concluded. The agents have their game plan to take down the targets. Now it's time to execute it.
Agents wait for the suspect to step outside.
Primary target is Kevin Cash.
They move in.
Let's go right up.
And within seconds, it's over. Their takedown, a textbook strike. Kevin Cash had no clue what hit him. His shocked face caught right here by our Newsmax cameras.
We're wrapping up now. The suspect is going back to the field office to get booked, to get processed. But successful operation that got Kevin Cash leaving his house, been accused of some serious crimes.
Now he's being booked, processed, and fingerprinted, headed for a one-way ticket out of the country, courtesy of Uncle Sam.
Some days are more successful than others. but the goal is to arrest criminal aliens, get bad guys off the street. We definitely target the worst of the worst, but we also do not walk away from anyone that is otherwise removable and subject to arrest.
With renewed backing from the Trump administration, ICE agents are now more energized than ever to clean house, take down criminal illegals, and make sure that the next con job ends with a jail cell and a deportation order.
Crime correspondent Jason Matera joining us right now. Jason, tell us more about what you're observing, for instance, in Fairfax County, which right outside the nation's capital, people don't think of that as being a target of ICE.
Yeah, that's right. I will say that Kevin Cash has been illegal. He was, I'm sorry, I'm hearing feedback in my ear. All right, so Kevin Cash was taking jobs, renovation jobs, and not actually going ahead and following through on them. And therefore, he was put on ICE's radar. Rather than go through criminal proceedings, they just scooped him up because he overstayed his visa, and they're looking to deport him immediately. I will say that ICE has this renewed sense of morale with the Trump administration backing them now. FBI, DEA was there, State Department even, to help coordinate these type of attacks, and they're looking forward to a lot more of them. So Bob, Kelly, back to you.
All right, Jason Matera, thank you for that exclusive.
And much more ahead on National Desk. We'll be right back.
Rick Leventhal reported on the biggest stories of our time. Now he's fighting to bring you the truth, no matter what it takes. Watch The Leventhal Report, weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax 2.
Hi, folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Whether you're a professional driver or just a fan, vehicle breakdowns are costly.
It started tugging.
It started making some really weird noises.
The last thing I remember is just the engine cut out.
If your check engine light comes on tomorrow, the repair could easily cost thousands.
Is that transmission?
It's an exhaust leak.
Broken axles.
But with Endurance, you could never pay out of pocket for a costly repair again.
They covered a $14,000 engine replacement.
I had a seat sensor that went out, $1,400. Endurance paid it.
We got a brand new transmission, and we never saw the repair bill.
Use any certified mechanic you want. Just bring your car in, and Endurance will pay them direct. All major parts are covered.
What I like about Endurance, they don't play games, there's no middleman. They're a solid company.
If I didn't have Endurance, I would have paid over $7,000 out of pocket to repair my vehicle.
Something is going to break down. Make Endurance pay for it.
With Endurance, your car repair costs go way down, while your car's life expectancy goes way up, allowing you to drive more and pay less.
One claim alone saved me more than $4,000.
I've had 5 claims, and that is $3,500 that I've kept in my pocket.
So, who's going to pay for your next car repair? You or Endurance?
Whether you put 10,000 or 100,000 miles a year on your car, if it's less than 20 years old, Endurance has you covered with unlimited miles. Plus, your plan covers 24/7 roadside assistance anywhere in the country. Call right now to get $300 off any plan, plus a full year of our top-tier elite benefits, a $2,000 value free. And all Endurance plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. But you have to act now. Call 1-866-971-0194 for a free quote. That's 1-866-971-0194.
I was exhausted all the time, and I just didn't feel like myself. And then came the weight gain. I found out I was like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland wasn't functioning like it was supposed to. And that's why I started taking Actilin, a premium nutritional supplement. Actilin was created by renowned physician Dr. David Brownstein, formulated with 17 powerful ingredients to specifically support your thyroid function, adrenal health, and metabolism. And now, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. Just pay a small shipping and handling charge. Plus, receive Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. If you're experiencing loss of energy, cold hands and feet, dry skin, weight gain, or joint pain, Actilin may be right for you. Don't wait. Act now. Get your free trial bottle of Actilin, valued at $39.95.
The United States plans to meet with Iranian officials next week after striking Iran's key nuclear facilities and brokering a ceasefire between Israel and Iran.
There's also new reporting from the Israeli media. Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump have agreed on terms to end the war in Gaza and expand the Abraham Accords. Newsmax has not independently verified the report, which cites a source familiar with the conversation. It was said to have taken place over the phone after the U.S. bombed 3 Iranian nuclear sites last weekend.
According to the report, 4 Arab states would govern the Gaza Strip, Hamas leaders would be expelled, and all hostages would be released.
Let's welcome back former Undersecretary of Defense and former Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Robert Wilkie. Robert, let's talk about the future.
Right.
We're going to get through the, we're talking about all the details of the nuclear sites and trying to negotiate with the Khomeini and all that. But there needs to be a future for Iran, just like every country in the Middle East. And the Abraham Accords are kind of a pathway to say what comes next. Can you address that and how that could be expanded beyond the handful of countries involved?
Bob and Kelly, whenever you're dealing with the Middle East and you look to the future, you always have to go back to the past. I know that sounds trite. You just had a couple of sentences about Arab nations coming into Gaza. The Arab nations want the elimination of Hamas because what is Hamas? It is the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood that killed Sadat has tried to kill both the late King Hussein and the current King Abdullah. They want to get rid of the Saudi royal family. So these nations are coming together to create, I hope, a new path for that part of the world. And on top of that, the leaders of Syria have said, we want to join the Abraham Accords. That is an earth-shaking development because Israel has been at war with Syria since 1948. The Assad family was always the most recalcitrant. Even when Egypt made peace, when Saudi Arabia said enough is enough, Jordan made peace. It was always Syria, and Syria was a conduit for the Iranians. They won. And by the way, Israeli planes were able to traverse Syria in order to get to Iraq.
Yeah.
A game changer. So I think that will happen. Now, the mullahs, a very different world. They are not going to join. I mean, they're the mortal enemies of the Sunnis, religiously, politically, strategically. They will have to be convinced that the end of their regime is nigh unless they disarm and quiet down.
Putting Iran aside for the moment, let's focus on Hamas and the Gaza Strip. What is coming out of Israeli media, and again, it has not been confirmed by Newsmax, and it's not coming out of the U.S. media, so this is probably coming from leaks from Bibi Netanyahu. They want to end the Gaza war in 2 weeks. 4 Arab states govern Gaza, Hamas leaders exiled, all hostages will be released. Saudi Arabia and Syria would normalize ties with Israel, joining the Abraham Accords. And Israel would back a 2-state solution with PA reforms, the Palestinian Authority reforms.
That may be the hardest part.
I was just going to ask you, what do you see as you maybe sticking, not easy to accomplish?
Right. I think Arab countries going in to help save Gaza would probably be easier than reforming the PA, which may be one of the most corrupt entities on the planet. I do think you're absolutely right in your assessment that this is coming out of the Prime Minister's office. You're starting to see a little bit in the Israeli media, but that's a lot to chew on for that region. But I do think they want Hamas out. That is the mortal threat to all of those regimes. It has been for almost 80 years now. Well, actually longer than that. So that will be accomplished. Syria will probably join the Abraham Accords before the PA reforms itself. And I don't think Netanyahu's at a place where he's going to say, yeah, we need a two-state solution. Right?
Yeah, that could be a challenge. And just to remind people, Palestinians have been offered a second state multiple times, and de facto, Gaza was one.
Right.
Until October 7th.
There didn't be Jews. There were no Jews in Gaza going all the way back to 2005.
Exactly. So remind people who is in the Abraham Accords and what they are, because as shorthand, I would say it's a way to do business to actually have capitalistic enterprise, free enterprise. Israel is big on that. You want high technology? Go to Israel. And because a lot of these Arab countries realize that oil's not going to last forever.
That's the key.
And the demand for oil is not going to last forever.
That is the key. You see the Gulf states, which are the primary beneficiaries of the Abraham Accords, looking to use the incredible oil wealth that they have accumulated to drive a path to the future that is based on high tech. It is based on a future without oil. And the one great economic engine that is not oil-based in the Middle East is Israel. An incredibly small country, yet one of the 20th largest economies on the planet. And I think after the United States, the #1 country when it comes to entrepreneurial high tech. So that's what they want. And they think that's a better path for their people.
Bloomberg News is reporting this afternoon that the president is considering eliminating a number of positions, 200 positions at ODNI. Which Tulsi Gabbard's heads, and rolling it into the intelligence agency, not having it be a standalone agency. Right. What do you make of this reporting, and is that a smart idea?
Well, if it's true, I would agree with it. I think we created ODNI out of desperation after the attacks in 2001. The head of CIA, director of CIA, is still legally the head of the intelligence community. And the last thing we need is more compartmentalized stovepipes within the community. I think you should put that power and the budget authority back to CIA, but I've been saying that for a long time.
All right. Well, Robert Wilkie, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you both.
All right, let's take a live look at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, courtesy of the EarthCam, and wouldn't mind being there today.
That looks
it's
nice.
Hot here, might as well be at the beach.
All right. Get the vacation started.
Yeah.
It's a Friday.
That's not in your mind at all, is it? There's still more to come on National Desk. Stay with us.
Today's seniors are enjoying life more than ever before.
That way you could fund your businesses, investments, and passive income streams to start living the life that you deserve and grow your income. Just click anywhere on this video and you'll be taken to the next page where I break all of this down for you. And look, if you're still with me, no, this isn't baloney, this isn't fake. If you don't believe me, go see for yourself that these banks do in fact offer 0% interest funding. It's actually everywhere on their websites. You could even investigate my YouTube channels, my social medias to see that I'm actually a real person that does exactly what I promise, which is helping people like you access 0% interest funding to fund any business, investment, or passive income stream that you want. So you could start living the life of your dreams today. And plus, I've already
Time to check on your auto insurance rates. You need to make sure that you're not paying more than you need to.
1-800-909-6063.
If you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, well, your favorite attorney has a message for you. Collision, calamity, catastrophe? Are you innocent, faultless, above reproach? If you want money, you need an attorney. You need a bulldog. But finding one, it's laborious, it's strenuous, it's stupefying. That's why you gotta call the number on your screen now.
To get your own bulldog, call your favorite attorney now.
They'll help you connect to a legal expert. You have questions, they have answers. They know the legalese, the lingo, the jargon, and the argot.
When I got hit by a car, I was confused, confounded, and concerned. But calling left me calm, composed, and comforted. Thanks, your favorite attorney.
They'll even tell you how much money your case could be worth. $300,000, $2 million, $86,491, all sorts of numbers.
Call your favorite attorney now. He'd call you, but he doesn't have your number.
Call 800-513-2164.
Slip and falls, work accidents, car, truck, bus, motorcycle, motorbike, e-bike, tandem bike. These bulldogs will make sure people pay. And if you don't get paid, the attorneys don't get paid, and I don't get paid.
After I was blindsided and sideswiped by a fat tire e-bike towing a skateboarder, I didn't know what to do. And a friend recommended that I call his favorite attorney. And I got results. Now, he's my favorite attorney.
It doesn't matter what kind of vehicle it was. As long as it had an engine and the accident wasn't your fault, call your favorite attorney now.
I compel you, I implore you, I beseech you to pick up that phone and call now to see what your case could be worth.
To get a windfall, you first need to call.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
Thanks, your favorite attorney.
So if you've been in an accident that wasn't your fault, call your favorite attorney now.
Call 800-513-2164. That's 800-513-2164.
It's because there's no spaces.
Iran has hit cities across Israel with a massive attack. There are rockets and drones that are hitting our schools, our homes, our synagogues. I'm Yael Eckstein of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, and we urgently need your response now to help bring emergency food, shelter, and life-saving supplies.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has emergency teams across the front lines of Israel's war for survival. Call now to give your gift of $45 and help provide food, shelter, and life-saving supplies. It's your prayers and gifts that give hope and comfort to Israel and the Jewish people.
The Fellowship is a Bible-believing ministry, and we desperately need tens of thousands of faithful believers to answer this call for help now.
Call, scan, or go online now to stand with Israel.
And the ones that didn't fix their
In one of Chicago's oldest bars, you can step into the shoes of some of the most notorious Prohibition-era gangsters. The Green Door Tavern hasn't changed much in 100 years. It's one of the only all-wooden structures grandfathered in after wooden construction was banned after the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. But its real history started in 1921. When owners turned an Italian restaurant called the Heron Orleans into a speakeasy. Prohibition laws outlawing the sale of alcohol gave rise to some of Chicago's most notorious mobsters. Through this secret entrance, Irish mobster Dean O'Banion, leader of the North Side Gang, stocked the shelves of this hidden basement bar, and many others like it, with plenty of illegal alcohol. Through his bootlegging operations, O'Banion set himself up as a direct rival to mobsters like Al Capone and Johnny Torrio. Like many other establishments at the time, the tavern's door was painted green to signal the presence of a speakeasy, hence the origin of its current name, the Green Door Tavern. Long after Prohibition, new owners of the business happened upon the long-forgotten secret entrance and the unspoiled speakeasy hidden below. They discovered full bottles of wine and liquor supplied by the mob were still sitting on the shelves. The Green Door Tavern stands on the street much as it did back in the days of Al Capone, warts and all. After it was completed in the 1800s, the building settled, leaning as if it were going to fall over. Fire marshals still regularly inspect it to this day, but they never find much beyond the magnificent memorabilia which overflows inside as monuments to a bygone era. And patrons still slip through the wall and head downstairs for some live entertainment. The speakeasy is now a bar within a bar called The Drifter. A rotating selection of over 100 cocktails are listed, all perfectly legal for the 21 and over crowd. So pull up a seat and eat and drink like a mobster. I'm Lucy Celia, and this is An American Place on Newsmax TV.
All right, folks, we're coming to the end of the week news-wise, at least here on National Desk. But the news does continue. Obviously, the president expected to appear. He's trying to get a deal between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Some of his efforts to hopefully carry the mantle of peace around the world. I did want to point out the stock market today, because I tend to talk about the market. It was headed to a record close on the S&P 500, However, and a lot of that was, at least over the past day or so, hopes that there's actually a trade deal, a tariff deal with China. But then the president pulled out of talks with Canada, this over some digital taxes that were being applied by Canada to tech companies, including those from the U.S. The president didn't like that, so he said, no, I'm going to pull out of those talks. And then the market went down. So we're close to closing at an all-time high on the S&P 500. May not get there today. But just as a reminder, the world was coming to an end back in April after the tariff announcements. Hasn't been that way. It's kind of moderated, and hopefully that's a good sign. And hopefully you have a great weekend. Keep it right here on N2 Newswire with Bianca Della Garza. Is coming up next. Have a great weekend.
We've got great news for seniors. The Social Security Administration has made a small burial fund available to every senior citizen who qualifies, but it's not enough. So the state has approved an affordable burial program that could pay the entire cost that Social Security doesn't cover. Don't wait. If you qualify, this program would pay 100% of your funeral and final expenses up to $30,000. We are helping seniors qualify for this program right now. To learn more about how this program works and how easy it is to qualify for this coverage.
They did that earlier today at the State Department with Secretary of State Marco Rubio on hand, ending more than 3 decades of conflict there. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, though, we do want to go out to the Senate floor right now. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Democrat of New York, speaking there. Let's watch.
The critiques of some of their own colleagues, like Senator Tillis, who reportedly said behind closed doors, "This will be devastating to my state." Or Senator Justice, who said, quote, "Our rural hospitals are going to have a tough time. You may have to hold your nose and vote for disagreeable policies." Senate Republicans should listen to their own words. They should ignore fake deadlines and stop the rush job. I yield the floor. Note the absence of a quorum.
Madam President.
Senator from North Carolina.
Confirming we are not in a quorum call.
We are not.
Madam President, I rise to recognize and commend the outstanding efforts of our law enforcement community in Western North Carolina for their role in the success of Operation Uptown Funk. Now that's a pretty creative name, but it's a very serious issue. It was a year-long investigation into drug trafficking in Appalachia.
This coordinated operation has involved law enforcement agencies from Buncombe counties, Henderson, Haywood, Transylvania counties in North Carolina, as well as Greenville and Spartanburg counties in South Carolina. And it's been supported by the Drug Enforcement Administration. This is nothing short of a strong testament to the commitment of our law enforcement officers to put the welfare of our communities first. Over the course of this investigation, authorities confiscated more than $175,000 of illicit funds, 20 firearms, and 30 pounds of illegal drugs, including substantial quantities of cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl. More than 30 individuals from Henderson County have been arrested and are being held accountable for their role in this dangerous drug network. Madam President, these results, they're not just statistics. They represent lives saved, overdoses prevented, and neighborhoods that can breathe easier knowing that they're a lot safer. In a region still working to recover from the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene, dismantling this traffic ring has brought a renewed sense of hope and security for Western North Carolinians. On behalf of the people of North Carolina, I extend my deepest gratitude and congratulations to Sheriff Lowell Griffin of Henderson County Sheriff Quentin Miller of Buncombe County, and Sheriff Bill Wilkie of Haywood County, and Sheriff Chuck Owenby of Transylvania County. I also want to thank the dedicated men and women within their departments, especially the Henderson County Drug Interdiction and Criminal Enforcement Unit, or DICE, for their service. Their courage has protected countless families and made it clear to the drug traffickers that they will find no refuge in the mountains of our beautiful Western North Carolina. It's my honor to represent a state whose law enforcement professionals lead with tremendous integrity and commitment to our citizens.
All right, we're at the top of the hour. 1 o'clock here on the West Coast, 4 o'clock there in Washington. Senator Ted Budd, the Republican of North Carolina, speaking on the Senate floor after we brought you live earlier today. An event in Western North Carolina, Chimney Rock State Park, opening for the very first time since Hurricane Helene devastated portions of Western North Carolina. You heard, if you were watching, to Democratic Governor Josh Stein on the reopening of the state park. Though, like I said, though, we want to get into really the biggest story of the day, a flurry of these Supreme Court rulings. The one that's most talked about right now, this 6-3 decision along ideological lines when the court sided with the Trump administration's request to limit universal injunctions issued by lower federal courts. The opinion in the birthright citizenship case, of course, as you know, was highly anticipated, though we didn't really get an answer on the constitutional question of birthright citizenship. Nonetheless, still so many people are talking about it, including our friend and colleague there, Fox News' Rebecca Castor, with more details. Rebecca, thanks so much. I know you cover the Supreme Court a lot there in Washington. What was the gist? What was the nature of this case?
Well, Andrew, this case centered on two major issues: nationwide injunctions and birthright citizenship. The justices, as you mentioned, did not weigh in on whether President Trump's ban on birthright citizenship is legal. Instead, they ruled lower courts do not have sweeping authority to influence policy across the country.
I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant.
The Trump administration is celebrating after the Supreme Court ruled Friday to limit nationwide injunctions, a legal tool federal judges have used to block at least 40 of the president's policies this term.
Here, the Supreme Court is agreeing with the Trump administration that these judges are well past their authority given to them.
Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis.
One of those policies is Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship for children born to parents in the U.S. illegally. But this ruling doesn't mean the ban goes into effect immediately. The court put a 30-day hold on it, giving time for more legal challenges.
Most likely, that will be decided in October in the next session.
The court's 3 liberal judges dissented. Justice Sonia Sotomayor says the parents of children covered by the citizenship order would be well advised to file promptly class action suits and request temporary injunctive relief. Several advocacy groups are already doing just that. The ACLU and other civil rights groups just filed a lawsuit in New Hampshire challenging Trump's birthright citizenship ban. Andrew?
All right, Rebecca, question for you. So is the Supreme Court's term done for the year until October?
The answer to that is yes. Today was their final day. They issued at least 5 other rulings today as well. And so the next time they'll be in session is October.
All right, Rebecca, always good to see you. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend. Okay, in the meantime here, let's take our first commercial break of this hour. We have a lot in store on this extremely busy Friday afternoon, but don't you worry, that Supreme Court ruling and several others that were issued by the High Court today, we're going to be breaking a lot of them down, bringing on legal analysts and experts helping us make sense constitutionally of what the questions at play were, including this one that is, like I said, very highly talked about, the fact that the Supreme Court in that 6-3 opinion there really curtailing nationwide injunctions levied by federal district courts, lower courts. So in lieu of going to break right now, it does look like the White House press pool is being ushered in there to the Oval Office. Remember, we're anticipating this event there in the Oval Office, President Trump welcoming delegations from the Congo and Rwanda as this breakthrough kind of diplomatic deal and ceasefire deal and peace deal was reached just today, ending almost 3 decades of civil strife and conflict between the warring countries here. Let's go out now live to the Oval.
Well, thank you very much, and I'd like to ask Caroline, who's become very famous, big star, and she has a person who's a colleague of hers, a friend of hers, and that she has a lot of respect for, who comes from the area and knows exactly what's happening. Caroline, could I ask you to say a few words?
Yes, sir. Here we have Ariana, who is from the continent of Africa. She's been a reporter here in the United States for many years, and she has a story to share with the press, with the media, and with these 2 fantastic leaders who have joined you today. So, Ariana, please.
Why don't you come up here and talk so they can see?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
It's a great honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as Caroline has mentioned, President, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm the only African reporter accredited here at the White House.
Wow.
I cover for the entire continent. So, I just arrived from Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, yesterday. I went to see firsthand how the people is feeling and the president's message, President Felix Tshisekedi, about this upcoming peace deal. And let me tell you firsthand what I've witnessed myself. I spoke with the people on the street. I spoke with youth. They know your name. They know that our president named President Trump is working hard to finally bring peace to the country. I saw hope. They have hope now for a better day in Congo. They see what you're doing as a future, better future for Congo. And I had opportunity to sit down with President Felix Tshisekedi for an interview because I want to understand his mind, what he's thinking, his feeling about everything that your administration is doing. And he told me firsthand that for many years, many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I cover President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country.
Right.
They never gave me any answer. And he told me, President Tshisekedi, that you have no idea, he's very thankful for what you're doing, for what your administration is doing. Not only him, the entire Congolese people. They see that finally they will have hope. And President Tshisekedi also mentioned at the end of my interview that when peace finally comes to Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's thinking to nominate you as a Nobel Prize Peace because he said you deserve, you have been working to bring peace in the world, not only at the Congo, and he's very hopeful to meet you in the future.
That's so nice. Boy, and that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect, she said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I said it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you. So you covered Africa for a long time?
Yes, for over 10 years.
Wow.
I cover even your first administration.
Yes, I know that. That's great. Well, thank you. That's so nice that you said that. Appreciate it.
And I have one more question,
Yes.
Mr. President. Since we know in July or in the future, both President of Rwanda and the Congo will be coming
Yes.
to the United States. In Africa, President João Lourenço, the president of Angola, he is also the leader of African Union.
Good.
He
Yes, I know.
worked very hard to bring peace, but unfortunately...
Let's get him here.
Yes, that's
Okay? Would you invite him for me?
Of course.
Okay?
Of
No,
course.
we'll have. I know that he works very hard, and he's the head of essentially the union. So the union all over Africa, not the kind of union that we have. This is the union all over Africa, and I'd love to have him. So you'll let him know.
Of course,
Okay?
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. Now you go back to where you belong, right? That's great. That's a great job. It's real knowledge and real heart too. Congratulations. Okay. So we're here today to celebrate a glorious triumph, and that's what it is, for the cause of peace. And this is a long time waiting, the signing of a historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. The conflict has continued, and it's been going on for many, many years. It's been going from, I guess they say 30 years. The Great Lakes region of Africa for a long time, and maybe even time before that. How is the Great Lakes region? Must be beautiful, right? Beautiful, beautiful region, but they had a lot of war, right? A lot of fighting, a lot of death. It's displaced countless people and claimed the lives of thousands and thousands. But today, the violence and destruction comes to an end, and the entire region begins a new chapter of hope and opportunity, harmony, prosperity, and peace. That's been a long time waiting. I said, how long has the war been going? And a friend of mine who was very much involved said 30 years, and at least 6 million people were killed during that period of time. It's incredible. And somebody said that was actually, it's the biggest war on the planet since World War II. So it's a shame, but we're going to bring it to an end. I want to express my gratitude and congratulations to the representatives of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda, who signed this pivotal agreement a short time ago. They just signed right in front. And let me also thank Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has worked very hard on this subject, and we've worked on it together, for his outstanding leadership, as well as Senior Advisor for African and Africa Affairs, Mossad Boulos, who's, as you know, spends a lot of his time in Africa, and he's very comfortable there. I said, were you at all uncomfortable with all of the turmoil and all of the killing? And he said, no, I wasn't uncomfortable, and that's what you need. You need somebody that's going to be able to get. So, Mossad, I want to thank you very much for the job you've done. Amazing guy, actually. I also want to thank African Union, Qatar, Togo, for working closely with the United States. And I know Qatar was really working hard, and African Union, we just spoke about that. And I look forward to having them representatives here when we do the official meeting, and that'll be sometime in July. And we look forward to it. And you better be here covering it, okay? We're not going to stand anybody else covering it but you. But this is a tremendous breakthrough. In a few short months, we've now achieved peace between India and Pakistan, Israel and Iran, and the DRC and Rwanda, and a couple of others also. Serbia, you know, they were getting ready to go to war with a group I won't even mention because it didn't happen. We were able to stop it, but I have a friend in Serbia, and they said we're going to go to war again. And I won't mention that it's Kosovo, but it's Kosovo. But they were going to have a big-time war, and we stopped it. We stopped it because of trade. They want to trade with the United States. I said, we don't trade with people that go to war. And we said that also with, if you take a look at Pakistan and India, it was great. They have two great leaders, and they were able to stop. They were in the midst of a big fight, I guess everybody saw, and it was going to get very bad. And they are nuclear nations, very powerful nuclear nations. In the months and years ahead, my administration will continue to work closely with all of the parties in this deal and ensure the agreements are fully taken care of, and you're going to do what's in the agreement. We'll say you better do what's in that agreement, right? Because if somebody fails to do that, bad things happen. But I have a feeling that after 30 years, I think after 30 years, you're all set.
We are.
I think both of you have said that's enough, right? That's enough. Yeah. That's enough. You've seen it all. Mm-hmm. So this is a wonderful day. It's a great day. We've had some tremendous success. It's been a great week between just coming back from a very successful trip, NATO's really pulled together. They have, they're going to spend over $1 trillion a year. Nobody expected a thing like that to happen. And we had the war, as you know, we call it the 12-day war. It was exactly a 12-day war, and we ended up with no nuclear weapons. That's what we wanted. And they were just absolutely blown to pieces, those 3 sites. And there's no nuclear weapons, and hopefully there can be a lot of healing, and the healing is starting. And it's been a really pretty amazing week, and this is one that I really look forward to. This was set up a few weeks ago, and it was something that I really look forward to. If we can do this and we do that because we have a certain competence that's good, we're able to get people to be peaceful. I think we can do war better than anybody, but we don't want to. And we have the greatest military in the world. They showed that in Iran. Those pilots, they flew for 36 hours. And think of that, and they hit their target the size of this desk, half the size of this desk, from about 52,000 feet in the dark of night with no moon, zero moon. They wanted it that way. Can you believe it? And they hit, every missile hit exactly half the size of this beautiful Resolute desk. We don't want to talk about it when it comes to rockets hitting it, but half the size of this, and they hit dead center from tremendous heights, going at tremendous speeds. It's amazing. Nobody could do a thing like that. Nobody has that weaponry, and nobody could do a thing like that. So we had a very busy and successful week, and in addition to that, our economy is doing great, setting records with the economy, and a lot of other good things happening. But this is about Congo and Rwanda. And I'd like to ask, if I might, would you say a few words before we introduce our guests?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
So, under your leadership, Mr. President, and the full support of Secretary Rubio and the entire team at the State Department, we engaged with the two parties in early April, and within 3 weeks, they signed the Declaration of Principles. And now, within about 2 months from that, we have signed today the final, this is actually the final peace agreement. You know, many people were wondering if this is preliminary. No, this is the actual final peace agreement that they've signed today. You have also expressed interest in inviting the heads of states to the White House for a signing ceremony. So there will be some other additional agreements that will be signed. In addition to this, which will become known as the Washington Accord with regards to the Great Lakes region.
That's great.
There are some economic...
Why not the Trump Accord? I'm only kidding. I think that's great. Washington Accord.
And there's an economic aspect as well that is extremely important for both countries. They have also worked, last week we finalized the regional economic integration framework, which both countries will be signing at the White House here during that ceremony. And
that's going to be a great ceremony.
Absolutely.
Right? We're going to make that a great ceremony and bring other people that were involved, some other people. Besides the gentleman we talked about who we know has worked so hard, if you think there are other people that are deserving, let us know. Okay?
Sure. And there will be some bilateral agreements. We're negotiating a minerals deal with the DRC for critical minerals. Many American companies have shown interest in investing in the DRC, and these we're talking about long-term investments. Same thing with Rwanda. Many American companies have shown interest, and not only in mining, but also in the midstream and downstream, which would be the processing of minerals. We're also working and supporting the Lobito corridor, which will help building the infrastructure. Just 2 days ago, the United States signed and supported a project of $1.5 billion for electric transmission from Angola to the DRC. And there are many other projects of that nature lined up. So we will be, under your leadership, Mr. President, will be working with the two countries very closely and with the support of Qatar to make sure that this agreement is implemented.
And a lot of our companies are in both of these countries now, especially since we've been getting along so well. It's probably the way we were brought together. And we have a lot of our big companies are there, between rare earth and all of the other things that they do in Africa, which is very greatly expanding, especially in these two countries. You have earth, they consider it to be about the best in the world, actually, I've heard. So we're doing a lot of different things, and it's all going to bring everybody together. That's how this all began, I guess. But the big thing is, the big thing for me is there's really only one thing, and that's getting a peace treaty with two countries that have been fighting for 30 years. And but I want to thank you all. Will, if you could, you could bring the letters over.
Of course, sir. So in front of you, as you said, sir, these are the actual agreements that were signed respectively by the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda earlier today, witnessed by Secretary Rubio. We've also prepared for you two letters. This is to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda, expressing your appreciation and congratulations for everything that's happened already, and of course inviting him to Washington for, as Dr. Boulos said, what we hope will be the Washington Accords, finally setting the terms for peace and prosperity in this region, hopefully for a very long time.
That's great. That's beautiful. Very important. We're going to put a picture in there, right? As soon as this is over, they're going to put, we have a fast-moving photographer, Dan, who's going to put a nice picture of us here, okay? Thank you. That's thank you.
And this is a letter to President Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, again congratulating him on settling this long-running war and inviting him to Washington, D.C. for the final conclusion of the agreement, hopefully soon.
That's great. That's right. Take that pen. You take that pen.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'd like to ask JD to say a few words, our great Vice President, and then Marco. And go ahead.
Great. Well, first, let me welcome the foreign ministers of Rwanda and Congo. It's great to have you in the Oval Office. And second, let me say congratulations to the President, Secretary Rubio, and the entire team. I think for the people of these two countries, they should know that the United States is committed to the pathway of peace. But to my fellow Americans, this is really a celebratory moment. This is a big moment for our country because under the President's leadership, we've taken what was 30 years of killing and war, the worst war in terms of death count since World War II, and now we're on a pathway to peace. And so if I think about what I know about these two countries, for 30 years, pretty much the entire time that I can remember these two countries being in the news, much of the story has been about them fighting one another, about them killing one another. And now we can look forward to a future where my children will look at this moment as the beginning of a new story, a story of prosperity and of peace. So thanks to the President, congratulations to the entire team, and to my fellow Americans, we should all be really proud because it's amazing what active presidential leadership can accomplish when it's geared towards peace and prosperity, and that's what we have in the Oval Office right now. So great job, sir.
Thank you very much, JD and Marco, and then we're going to ask the two principals to speak.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, first of all, thank you. When I first came on this job a few months ago, you made it very clear that one of the priority of this administration under your leadership was going to be the pursuit of peace. And from day one, whether it's been in Ukraine and Russia, whether it's been Pakistan, India, whether it's been Iran and Israel, and in the continent of Africa, your priority's been on peace. And today we see this come to fruition. It's sad. Wars get a lot more attention than peace. But peace is harder than war, a lot harder. And I want to congratulate both of the leaders here and their respective presidents for choosing the harder path, which is often peace, than the easier path, which sometimes is war, as costly and as bloody as it may be. And I echo the Vice President's statements, and that is that Americans should be very proud that the #1 voice for peace in the world today is our president, your president. And so thank you, President Trump. And I want to, again, recognize Dr. Boulos and the work he's put into this from day one. He's really put a lot of time and effort, and as our friends from the respective countries can share with us. And last point, I do want to thank, you've done this already, but the African Union, Togo, and Qatar, who have been extraordinary partners and whose help we're going to need to continue to receive in order to bring all this to fruition. So congratulations to both of you, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Great job you've done. Do you want to start? Either way, would you like to start?
Ladies first, maybe.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for having us here. I think I can summarize my contribution in 3 main points. First of all, thank you and congratulations indeed for this remarkable milestone, which is putting an end to 30 years of conflict and of suffering, and which is redefining the perspectives that millions of Congolese and of citizens of the greater Great Lakes region will have. The second point is stay committed, stay on board. We need the United States to make sure that this agreement holds and that you hold us accountable. And the third point is, if you stay on board, I think there are so many perspectives that we can transform our partnerships through, and that can usher in an era of prosperity, of growth, and of shared bilateral relationships that go well beyond the challenges that we've shared together, and that can at least, or finally, focus on the potential and of the wealth that we can share. So again, our heartfelt gratitude to you on my behalf, but more importantly, on behalf of the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you so much.
Beautifully spoken, and I look forward to seeing your leader. They will, highly respected person, as you know, highly respected all over the world, but in Africa in particular. So sometime in July, we'll do something, big ceremony. Okay? Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This is indeed a historical day because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years. And there has been many mediation, facilitation in the past, but none of them succeeded. And we believe that it's because of your leadership and your steadfast commitment to this process, with also a new approach of economic integration, regional economic integration, which is important to allow Rwanda and DRC working together, because this is a very rich region with cross-border trade, with minerals, with natural wealth. So with the U.S. Standing side by side with Rwanda and DRC, we believe that we will achieve a long-time peace. And we also believe that, as my colleague from DRC stated, it's important for the United States to stay committed, because today we signed, but now we need to implement what we have signed in order to open this new era you were talking about of prosperity, so that we can reap the economic dividend of peace. So for this economic integration framework to be implemented, it's important for the U.S. to accompany the parties to implement what we have signed, because in the past we have signed so many agreements that were not implemented. And we are really, we believe that with your leadership, with the involvement of the United States administration, we will reach that goal. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
Well, this will happen, definitely. I can reach over. Do you want to just press them over to me? Let me have them. And I just wanted to give you each. These are your signed agreements. And we'll make sure that you follow through. We'll make sure you follow through.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that you follow through. Okay, that's for you. And we have one other thing that we're going to give, that we give to special people only. It's a coin.
Thank you.
And I hope you do that. And we're going to give you a second one for your leader.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
And likewise, these are serious coins. You don't want to lose them. You'll be very. I think that your reporter from Africa should get one. What do you think? Is she allowed? I think I can guess. Are the reporters okay with it? Brian, yes? Darling, that's for you. Okay? You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I heard you do a great job in covering everything. Thank you.
And Mr. President, we actually have the pictures that you took earlier
Oh,
of
let me
foreign
see that.
ministers here already.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you.
Let me see that.
They're in this folder right here, sir.
Okay, this one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, they look better than me. I don't like it. I don't like it. That's beautiful. That's very good. We have a good photographer. Beautiful. That's great. You better, I'll tell you, you better do the job here. We're going to come down hard. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. So we'll put them in. That's for you.
I can do that.
That's for you. This is for the Congo. What is it? For the Congo. Yes. Okay. Let's see, do we have two of them? I think so. You wouldn't give us one, you would have made a big mistake. Isn't that nice? That's for you. That's for you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And you're all set, and this is for you. You're going to get this. Good. Might as well hold it.
Thank you so
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Yes, sir. Why not? Why not Canada, by the way?
Why? I mean, because this is about a different subject right now. This is right now actually a much more important subject. We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years where 6 million people died, so don't ask me a trade question on Canada.
Mr. President, Kara Castanova from Lindell TV. Now that your administration, and congratulations, has secured peace in Africa to a bloody, horrific war that's gone on for decades and no other president could do it, do you think the mainstream media will finally...
I'm telling you. But you're right, no other president could do it. They tried and they didn't even try, I don't think. I actually don't think they tried. Do you think Biden tried? He didn't know he was alive.
Do you think the media will finally give you credit where credit is due?
No, the media will never give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's why I'm here. The people didn't give me. That's why we're here in a landslide. We got all 7 states. We won the popular vote. So the media won't give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's more important to me.
You're going to go down as a peacemaker. You're also going to go down with the president who had 0 border crossings in May. You secured the border most than anybody's ever done. But I don't know if you know this. You're on track right now to have the lowest murder rate in history in this country. And I think a lot largely goes to the fact we closed down the border. If you want to comment on that, you might go down as the lowest murder rate in U.S. history.
Yeah, I saw that the other day, and that's an honor. I mean, and that's really even better because, you know, we've taken a lot of illegals into the country through the Biden administration that are murderers, 11,888 to be exact. And many of them are now gone. We got rid of them. They're back where they belong. But so it's a great honor. You know, if you took that out, the numbers would be even better. They've created a lot of problems.
You drew social earlier about getting money to the air traffic controllers in a big, beautiful bill, which hopefully, praise God, if we get this thing signed. What does that mean to that industry that have been suffering the last couple of years, quite a decade of being underfunding, and how that changed the safety of air travel?
Well, they've underfunded the airports for years, and I started the process of getting it completed in terms of the equipment necessary to land the planes, where the planes, like the helicopter accident with the plane, would have never happened if they had the right modern equipment. It would have been bells and whistles would have been going on all over the place. And I had that all set, but when I wasn't here, they totally dropped it. You had a terrible head of transportation. We have a very good one now, Sean Duffy. But you had Buttigieg, and he didn't know a damn thing. He'd ride to work on his bicycle. He didn't know what the hell was going on. He was terrible. So he totally dropped that. It was a project that should have happened, and I was all set. But we had a very sad experience with the voting, and so we didn't get to do that. But now I'm doing it, and we're going to have a great system. And it's funded partially by the bill. It's the initial funding is by the bill, and then it gets to be funded. The rest of it comes a little bit later as we build it out. But we're going to build out the best in the world. We have the best companies in the world. A couple of countries have very good systems. In fact, I noticed when I was landing, my pilot often would use the system of another country, and I said, what are you doing that for? He said, the United States system is so bad. So we have the best companies that do that in the world bidding. You have Raytheon, you have IBM, you have a lot of different companies bidding, and we'll get the best one, the best system, for the best price. And they're going to go to town and give us a system that will be better than any other system in the world. And you won't have planes bunking into each other at 35,000 feet.
Mr. President, on the subject of peace deals, how close are you and your administration to a deal in terms of Gaza, a ceasefire right now?
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. And it's a terrible situation that's going Gaza, he's asking about. And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to. I mean, you have to. We're, in theory, not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying. And I look at those crowds of people that have no food, no anything, and, you know, we're the ones that are getting it there. Some of it's being taken by some bad people, you know, if you give it and you give it out, and they're supposed to be taking care of the people, and they end up stealing the food and selling it. But we have a pretty good system now, but so we're helping with that. You see the lines of people that just get one meal, essentially. But it's too bad. Other countries aren't helping out. Nobody's helping out. We're doing that because I think we have to on a humanitarian basis. Like this, we didn't have to get involved in Africa, but we did because we thought it was, I mean, I've been reading, like J.D. said, he's, you know, from much of his life, he's been just saying this about this brutal war. And it actually got a lot of publicity because of the level of brutality, right? It was, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And to be involved in that, I mean, I consider this the most important of my conferences today. We just had a great Supreme Court victory today, and everybody would say that was big, but you know, we're talking about saving thousands and probably millions of lives here. This is more important than anything. So it's great, but we're working on Gaza, trying to get it taken care of. And again, you know, a lot of food has been sent there, and other countries throughout the world should be helping also.
And on another conflict that I know you've been working on, sir, is it true that you have reached out with a letter to North Korea's Kim Jong-un?
Well, if there is a conflict, I get along with him very, very well, and we'll get the conflict solved with North Korea. I've had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I've gotten along with him really great, so we'll see what happens. But somebody's saying there's a potential conflict. I think we'll work it out if there is. It wouldn't involve us. But again, we're very far away from a lot of these places that we're solving problems with. But I enjoy doing it, I like doing it, and it's the right thing to do, and we have an ability to get it done, so we're solving things that we didn't have a lot to do. Serbia, Kosovo, I told you, we solved a potential disaster. I can tell you that some of the countries that you're not going to hear about, but some countries that were ready to go to war with their neighbor are not going to go to war with their neighbor, and that's a great thing. We have a number of them. But I'm very happy about India and Pakistan because they actually have nuclear weapons. You know, when you talk about Iran, they were trying to get it, but India has nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons, high-level nuclear weapons both, and getting that solved was really great. We did it through trade, so it was a great thing.
Mr. President, when it comes to nuclear weapons, Mr. President, are you concerned that the Iranians may have some enriched uranium at Pickaxe Mountain?
The last thing they're thinking about right now is enriched uranium. They're not thinking about what they want to do is they want to get back to life, and they do want to meet me, and we'll do that quickly. We're going to do it quickly while we're meeting.
Is it that they don't want to meet with the U.S.? Were they telling
Well,
you
they
something
may-
different in private?
They may say that to you. Don't you think they want to meet me? Don't you think we have sanctions on there that they can't do anything? Wouldn't you think that they want to meet me? I mean, they're not stupid people, but they went through a lot, and they suffered, and so did Israel. Israel suffered greatly. It was a nasty 12 days, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
Are you considering sending Patriot missiles to Ukraine? Have you made up your mind about that yet?
I may. Go ahead.
On this context, Mr. President, there are a few unanswered questions that remain in this deal. For example, will Rwandan, on this deal, on this conflict, for example, will Rwandan troops pull back from parts of the DR Congo? And also, will the M23 rebel group be allowed to remain in parts of eastern DR Congo? Do you have any answers to those?
Well, let me ask you that question. Do you want to answer that one? It sounds like an interesting question for you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. In the agreement we signed, we have taken the concept of operation for the...
Take a vacation from your car payments. No payments for 90 days.
So we will implement it, this concept of operation, to do both things, to neutralize this movement, which has been destabilizing Rwanda for many years, and to lift our defensive measures. As for the M23, in the agreement also, we have decided to rely on the Doha talks, because they are currently
paying more than you need to.
1-800-909-6063. 1-800-909-6063.
Not your fault and you don't have an attorney? Listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
At Finance of America, we know you've worked